The year is 2225. The planet is called Blue Star, and I'm squeezing my breakfast out of a tube. It's a paste. Toothpaste texture, potato flavor, with a proud little aftertaste of the cheapest protein powder still technically for sale. I haven't tasted real food in 2.5 years. My tongue basically filed for retirement. Outside my window, the sky is the color of a dead TV. The towers stand around like gray tombstones. The air's got enough dust in it that breathing feels like a lifestyle choice. Rivers dried up. Forests turned to desert. The mountains just gave up. This is what a world looks like when it runs out of everything at once. Here's the part that really sells the joke. I'm a transmigrator. Woke up in this body 2.5 years ago with a system bolted into my retina, one of those golden cheats that's supposed to make a nobody into an emperor. Other transmigrators land in a palace. I landed in a resource apocalypse, and my miracle cheat has been sitting there gray and dead the whole time, showing one helpful line. Check-in location out of energy. Cool. Very cool. Love that for me. A cheat code with a low battery, so I crush the empty tube, toss it, crack my neck. I'm about ready to accept another gray day of chewing wax, and the sky decides to talk. Not a voice, a will. Cold, huge, no human language behind it, and it lands in 7 billion heads at the same second. Earth's resources are below the 1% threshold. Civilization Continuation Program. Activated. Eerie Wilderness Survival. Officially launched. Then the terms, in that flat cosmic customer service tone. 100 players from every country, yanked into an unknown wilderness. Any resource a player grabs out there has a chance to multiply 10,000 times and show up back home. Final rankings decide each nation's fate, and the bottom 30 countries get wiped off the map of Earth. Wiped off the map, not fined, not sanctioned, erased. 7 billion people just got drafted into a game show where the losers stop existing. I should be terrified. Instead, I catch myself smiling, because the word the will keeps repeating is wilderness, and wilderness makes my dead heart skip. In my old life, I was a survival nut. Snow mountains, rainforests. A full month alone in the primeval forest of Changbai with nothing but my hands and my bad decisions. That world is gone. But somewhere out there is dirt and water and, dare I dream, a hot piece of real meat. The screens make it official. Every wall, every phone, every street display flips to one feed. The rosters scroll. The lighthouse country sends 3 Navy SEALs, one of them a 5-star general, and the whole nation roars like they've already won. Russia sends an alpha sniper and a Siberian hunter. Everyone sends soldiers, killers, human weapons with resumes. Then it's my country's turn. Dragon Kingdom. Over 1 billion people leaning at the screen forgetting to breathe. Number 1. Mei Ling. Active Special Forces. The mysterious ace nobody's ever watched fight. Number 2. A martial grandmaster. The list keeps going. Somewhere near 58 it hits an actress, and the country's stomach starts to drop. Then it reaches the bottom. Number 100. Li Wei. Age 24. Occupation. University student. Attached document. One plain passport photo of a harmless-looking kid with a calm face. That's me. I'm the anchor holding up my nation's roster like a participation trophy. The planet loses its mind laughing. Other countries send SEALs. China sends a college kid and a pop star. Are they mailing the coffins pre-assembled? A Japanese commentator points at the screen, voice climbing to a shriek, and promises that in 3 days, our land will be covered in cherry blossoms, the flower of his great empire. Every word of it lands in 1 billion chests like a steel needle. In my own country's stream, the experts go silent, because what do you even say? One host holds the line. 1.4 billion of us. We believe in every athlete. If we don't trust our own people now, whoever will? And the comments slowly, bravely fill with people cheering for a fish they've already decided is going to die. I turn off the comments. My eyes go back to those 2 words. Eerie. Wilderness. My blood moves a little faster, and that's the exact second my dead system wakes up. A line crawls across my retina, faintly glowing, like it's embarrassed to have been asleep this long. High-dimensional energy reaction detected. Wilderness sign-in system. Activating. Activation successful. Location binding. Eerie wilderness. I look at the last tube of paste on my table. Tomorrow's entire food supply. I squeeze it till the plastic pops and the white sludge drips on the floor. Won't be needing it. 2.5 years of gray, and I've finally got a reason to look at this dying city and think, whatever's coming, it beats this. The corner of my mouth goes up on its own. Then a white light swallows the world. Something grabs my body that doesn't care about my opinion. A buzz, like space getting torn along a seam. And then, ground. Solid ground under my feet. I open my eyes into a primeval forest. Ancient trees straight up into the sky. Bark soft with moss. Air thick with wet earth and green. I take one breath and my lungs light up like they've been unplugged for a decade. Because they have. I actually squint. I forgot air could feel like a gift. The cold voice does the housekeeping. Transfer complete. 117 countries, 100 players each, 11,700 souls scattered across a continent that turns out to hold every ecosystem Earth ever had, all folded into one place. Everyone dropped hundreds of kilometers apart. Everyone gets protective clothing, a multi-tool backpack, a thermal blanket, and 3 random survival tools. Please check your inventory. So I check my inventory. A serrated entrenching shovel, a little iron pot with a lid, maybe 3 liters, and a spool of fishing line. That's it. That's the loadout. Meanwhile, the feed lights up with what everyone else pulled. The lighthouse seal got a dagger, flint and steel, and a bow. The Russians got a combat axe and a survival knife. The Japanese got swords and poison packets. And back home, my 300,000 loyal viewers, a rounding error next to Mei Ling's $80 million, look at my shovel and my fishing string and quietly begin to grieve. Then the wilderness does its first magic trick. A cold announcement, global. A player named Tariq Jamal has been killed by a giant brown bear due to improper teleportation. Current survivors, 11,699. 1 down, 30 seconds in, before anyone's even found water. The planet's laughter cuts off like a snipped wire. Every foreign viewer just remembered their guy is out here too. Me, I'm not panicking. My dead cheat is finally paying rent. New player gift pack, activate, a soft chime. Skill acquired, master level environmental perception. And the forest turns inside out for me. Wind, humidity, pressure tracks the health of every plant. All of it pours in like a tide and sorts itself. Stream, 300 meters, clean, drinkable. A cave 700 meters northwest, dry, no owner. Fresh bear droppings dead ahead, which is the forest's way of saying somebody big lives here. 7 edible plants and 3 medicinal ones inside a stone's throw. My odds of surviving this place just went up tenfold in one breath. On the feed, of course, all anyone sees is a college kid standing dead still, staring at nothing, while the pros on the other channels are already building shelters. Why isn't he moving? What's he doing? Forget it. I'm gonna watch Goddess Mei Ling. The count ticks down. 300,000, 280, 250, everyone leaving to watch someone competent. Then I move. No hesitation, no confusion. Straight northwest, toward water. And I don't look back. Back home, in the capital, they've thrown together a supreme command, a giant room, 100 little screens, 1 per dragon player, every survival expert they could grab, hosted by the 3 most trusted faces on national TV. The steady one. The elegant one. And an actual wilderness expert who trained under Bear Grylls. The rules let each country message its players once a week. 100 characters. That's the whole umbilical cord. Mostly they can only watch. And what they're watching, on the screen labeled 100, is a kid taking a nature walk while the clock counts corpses. By the time I reach the water, the stream that's supposed to be watching me abandon me is down to a stubborn couple 100,000. 2 meters wide. Bottom, a bright mineral blue-green. Every few seconds, a flick of silver. My eyes actually light up. I find a springy branch, tie the line to it, dig the bank with the shovel until I turn up 2 fat earthworms, thread the fattest one on the hook. The few thousand still watching perk up, and the other nation's feeds start howling. Look at the Chinese kid fishing with a broken stick. Is everyone in the Dragon Kingdom this primitive? Baka, a 3-year-old is more professional. I don't hear a word of it. I cast. I sit. I hold the line light across 2 fingers, feeling the water like a heartbeat. Modern people fish with electronic floats and forgot how to talk to a river a long time ago. I never did. I did exactly this for a month on Changbai, in a life that technically doesn't exist anymore. 5 minutes. 10. The comments get impatient again. Then a flash of silver. The line goes hard. Got him. He's strong. 4. 5 kilos of pure objection. So I don't yank. I let him tire himself out, guide him to the shallows, let the fish do the work. 3 minutes later, a wild carp the length of my forearm slaps up onto the bank, scales throwing light, plump enough to feed me for a day. The stream I'm broadcasting to goes dead silent for 3 full seconds. Then the real sky, the one that talks to all 7 billion of us, clears its throat. Ding. First resource acquisition detected. 10,000-fold return mechanism triggered. Dragon Kingdom reward. 10,000 wild carp. Deployment location, the central square of the capital. And in the middle of my country's capital, in front of a crowd out for an evening stroll in a world that ran out of food, a golden pillar of light 10 meters across comes down out of the sky. When it fades, there's a small silver mountain of 10,000 living carp piled in the square, each one 4 or 5 pounds. The smell of them fills the whole plaza. 1 fish became 10,000 fish, in front of everyone. The country doesn't cheer, it detonates. Godly Way. From this day, you are Godly Way, the first person to ever trigger a 10,000-fold return, and it was the college kid, the burden, number 100. My viewer count goes from 250,000 to 1,000,000 to 3,000,000 while I'm still standing there holding one wet fish. On the foreign feeds, the mockery just stops and turns a little green. Why is it China? Damn luck, this isn't fair. There's one sour note back home, and it's a fair one. 10,000 fish sounds like a lot, but there's over 1,000,000,000 of us. We won't get a scale. The higher-ups will just take it. And that comment spreads until a solemn voice cuts across the entire nation. Official government announcement. Every scrap of 10,000-fold return will go to the people, fairly, by nationwide lottery. Drawn live tonight at 8, claimed with your ID. Anyone who intercepts a single fish gets charged with treason. And the country goes from cynical to weepy in about 4 seconds. Because the fish was never the point. The point was hope, and it just came with a fair shake attached. I'm blissfully unaware of all of it. I'm already rebaiting the hook because one lucky fish gave me confidence and I want dinner. 10 minutes later, a grass carp bigger than the first, no chime. Then a third fish, nothing. So the 10,000-fold thing is a dice roll, and a low one. I sigh for all my compatriots who almost got a second helping. My viewers do not care in the slightest. 3 fish is a feast. Keep going, godly way. We're just here to watch you eat. While I sigh, the wilderness starts paying everyone else and I learn the mechanism has a sense of humor. Ding. Japanese contestant Kato Akari obtained 3 poisonous mushrooms. 10,000-fold return. 30,000 poisonous mushrooms deployed to central Tokyo. India, 5 rotten fruits, 50,000 rotten fruits. South Korea, 2 stinky fish, 20,000 stinky fish. The whole planet watches Japan's celebration curdle into a nationwide mushroom problem, and my countrymen nearly pass out laughing. Fresh carp versus rotten fruit and poison caps. That's the difference in strength. Then the chime rings for us again. Our Mei Ling, the ace, took a wild rabbit clean, 10,000 rabbits into the capital square. The stream cuts to her, a soldier kneeling by an injured rabbit. No soft-hearted hesitation, just a quiet, may your next life be better. And then it's done, and she's already field dressing it. A saint's heart gets you killed out here. She knows it. So do I. By mid-afternoon, I've got 3 clean fish and a decision to make. Because the forest's gone too quiet, and too quiet is a word my body reads before my brain does. There's a bear in the 2 or 3 kilometer range. I heard it, a roar, then a deer screaming, then half the sky's worth of birds leaving at once. Most people would evacuate. I look at the good water and the good fish and the good cave and think, if this valley's worth keeping, it's not me who leaves. It's the bear. Humans didn't take over the planet with muscle. We did it with the nasty organ right behind the eyes. So I gather firewood the whole walk to the cave, back aching by the end. And at the cave, dry, hidden behind vines, mouth facing south for the light, I do the one trick that turns a stream into a home. Fire. Bow drill. Fluffed dead leaves for tinder, dried moss, a couple of feathers, a fireboard, and a spindle I carve with the shovel. Then the boring, holy work of spinning wood against wood until the universe agrees to cooperate. 3 minutes, smoke. 5 minutes, the sawdust glows red. I tip the ember into the tinder, breathe on it like it's the most important thing I've ever done, and it catches. On the feed, someone types that they watched Bear Grylls try a bow drill twice on TV and fail both times, and here's a college student doing it in a cave in one shot. I skewer the carp and turn them slow over the flames. The smell of real cooking meat in a dying world knows is almost violent. And while dinner crisps, my perception taps me on the shoulder about a plant near the cave mouth. Slender leaves, faint mint. Makes a decent tea. And, the system adds, straight-faced, has a mild aphrodisiac effect. I put down my fish. I go look. Dragon's beard grass. I recognize it. The old indigenous folk brewed it to sharpen the mind and stiffen the spine, among, apparently, other things. I pick it careful, roots intact so it regrows, and count as I go. 1, 2, 3, all the way to 10 stalks. And the moment the 10th goes in the bag, the sky rings for the whole planet. Ding. Rare resource. 10,000-fold return. 10 times 10,000 dragon's beard grass, deployed randomly across the entire dragon kingdom. 100,000 stalks of a mild aphrodisiac tea herb. Sprouting overnight, in flower beds, in parks, and, this is real, in balcony flower pots across my whole country. Back in the booth, the expert tries to steer toward the herb's fine work clearing internal heat, and another host tries valiantly to talk about the ecological benefits of all this new greenery. And it's no use because the men of the Dragon Kingdom heard one word, and the comments become a national event. Thank you, Godly Way, testing this tonight. Honey, come look at the miracle on our balcony. I drop a few leaves in my little pot of stream water. It goes pale green and smells like mint and mercy. I sip it, and it's honestly the best thing I've had since I got here. My country, meanwhile, is preparing for the most extraordinary evening in its history. I have no idea. I'm just a guy with tea. Night comes down, and the wilderness hands me the first of many little watch list horrors. My smartwatch buzzes. Global death toll. Day 1, 127. Hypothermia 42. Animals 38. Falls 25. Poison 13. Other 9. Deaths in the Dragon Kingdom. 0. 127 people. And it isn't even fully dark. I sit with that a second. Quiet. Hope my people can hold on, because this place is meaner than it looks, and everyone still breathing has earned some respect. Then I do the unglamorous work that keeps a person alive. Feed the fire thick logs so it burns till dawn, because fire is warmth and fire keeps animals honest. Wrap up in the thermal blanket, because the night swing is a quiet killer. And my favorite part, I balance the iron pot on a propped branch and run the fishing line to it, so anything, man or beast, that comes for my cave in the dark knocks the pot down and rings my doorbell. My viewers, the loyal remainder, are beside themselves. He built an alarm system. He's turning a cave into a fortress. While everyone else shivers, he's enjoying life. I lie down in the deepest part of the cave with the shovel in my hand because it's my only weapon, and I don't put down my only weapon to sleep, and I drop into the light half sleep a month on Changbai taught me. The fire pops. Somewhere far off a wolf says something, and nothing comes for me. Day 1, done. I'm the college kid the whole planet bet against, and I'm the best fed man in the wilderness. Ask me again in a week. Morning finds me with a sunbeam across my face, and apparently, a fan club. I wake up, stretch, and the comments lose their minds over my jawline in the golden light. My mom asked why I was kneeling to watch the stream. Is this the legendary beauty passed down through the ages? I have not said a word. I have not done anything. I'm just a handsome man waking up, and it's a national event. I file that away as useful and get to work. Perception says pheasant nest, 2 kilometers southwest, 4 birds, and I am extremely done with an all-fish diet. A bird that fast needs a real weapon, so I build one. Straight birch branch, 3 centimeters, 2 meters, no knots, still resinous, fresh, springy. I go up the tree like it owes me money. Cut the branch clean without wounding the trunk. Then I sit on a flat rock and whittle a spearhead. Patient about it. Sharp, but not so thin it snaps on impact. I sand the shaft smooth with a stone, and when the audience wonders why a survival guy is fussing over the finish, the answer's simple. A smooth shaft cuts air resistance and flies truer. And I'm going to fire harden the tip later so the wood packs down like bone. 40 minutes. I'm holding something that would make a museum curator nervous. While I do arts and crafts, Japan provides the day's entertainment, and I only hear about it later. Their 2 aces manage the impossible on a continent this size. They find each other. Ninja and fighter, a genuine power couple, and their whole country's euphoric. Teammates, teamwork. Other nations are doomed. And then, on live global broadcast, under the eyes of billions, these 2 elite survivalists decide the correct response to a national extinction event is romance. They embrace, they start getting comfortable, and the feed goes tastefully black. This player has ended their live stream. The planet sits stunned for a solid 9 seconds before it loses it entirely. Japan's command center goes green in the face. Are your brains full of shit? Is this the time? Survive first, you absolute morons. The 2 strongest players their nation had, benched for a cuddle. The contrast, as they say, is stark. I know none of this. I'm belly down in the brush at 5 meters, watching 2 adult pheasants peck and a chick hop around. I get 1 throw before they scatter, so it has to be perfect. Now. I come up out of the bushes and the spear goes out like it resents the bird personally. Takes an adult clean through. The other 2 vanish in a blur of feathers. I don't care. Dinner's dinner. The sky pings. 10,000 wild pheasants deployed to the central squares of major cities. 10,000 roosters crowing at once in city plazas across my country. A beautiful and slightly deranged image, and when I get back to the stream and rebait with the guts, the fish come like they were waiting. Whitebait, grass carp, a 2-pound blackfish, and the chime rings for 30,000 mixed freshwater fish across every lake and reservoir back home. It's day 2, and I've fed a nation twice before lunch. Then the mood breaks. My watch lights up. Dragon Kingdom contestant Zheng Hai triggered a 10,000-fold return. Wild kiwi, 50 of them. 500,000 kiwis returned home. And then the next line. Contestant Zheng Hai died in a fall during collection. I stopped chewing. He was one of mine. A regular person. No cheat, no training. He saw the fish and the rabbit and the miracle, and he wanted so badly to give his country something too, so he climbed for fruit, and the wilderness took him for it. 500,000 kiwis and a dead man, and I understood him completely, which is the part that sits heavy. Back home, the country holds 3 minutes of silence for a stranger, and the expert in the booth, watching me pack up my food, kill my fire, and walk off without finishing my meal, corrects the others when they call it grief. He's not depressed, the expert says. He's more focused than he's ever been. He's surveying his territory. He's more dangerous now than he was an hour ago. The man's not wrong. Zhang Hai's death didn't break me. It just deleted the part of me that was having fun. What it makes me do is get serious about firepower, which means a real bow. Which means 3 things: a body, a string, Arrows. The body finds me first. A grove of moso bamboo, 3 years old at least, thick as a rice bowl, ringing like a bell when I knock on it. The hardware store of the wilderness, the old survivalists called it, and they weren't kidding. Cups, bowls, cookware, traps, and, at the right age, an excellent bow. I cut 5 stalks. And the sky rings for 50,000 adult moso bamboo, deployed to the eroded barren mountains in the southwest. They go from bald dirt to a rolling green sea in under a minute, a strategic resource and a cure for soil erosion in one delivery. Back in the booth, the expert gets clever and announces I'm obviously building a bow and arrows, and instead of applause, the comments bury him alive. Wow, a prophet. I called that yesterday. I knew the second he cut the first stalk. I even know he's missing a bowstring. Please stop analyzing, or you'll start predicting what color underwear God Li Wei wears tomorrow. The poor man goes red and mutters that great minds simply think alike. It's the first time I feel something like fondness for the folks at home. They're merciless. I respect it. The string I'll solve later. There's an old village trick. Strip mulberry bark, soak it, pound it, twist 3 strands to one. Tough enough to hold a draw, but bamboo I've got now. So I haul 5 long stalks lashed into a green raft up on my shoulder, dozens of kilos, and that's the exact moment the bear announces itself again. A roar out of the deep forest, low, rolling, the kind that shuts up every insect in the trees at once. My body goes battle ready before my brain catches up. Then, half a second later, my brain arrives, and I relax on purpose. I'm not fighting 500 kilos of muscle head on. That's a plan for an idiot. But nobody said head on. A bear that size is a mountain of meat, a bearskin of armor, a gallbladder of medicine, walking around advertising itself. It's not a threat. It's a treasure chest that hasn't been opened yet. I just have to convince it to open itself. So I dig. First, a dozen bamboo stakes, half a meter each, sharpened and stone polished to a flawless point. Then, near the bear's fresh droppings, a lovely spot 10 out of 10 would ambush again. I dig a pit, 1 meter across, 2 meters deep, 3 hours of it, arms burning. Sweat dripping in faster than I can throw dirt out. I drive the stakes into the bottom at a 30-degree angle, points up, stomped in to hold 1,000 pounds of falling bear. Then I roof it with a fragile lattice of branches, dead leaves, and a smoothed layer of humus until it's just an unremarkable patch of forest floor. I lay 2 grilled fish on top like a welcome mat. Big Bear, your table is ready. That night the sky opens up. My weather sense feels it coming. I get water and firewood in before the first drop. Then the rain arrives like the sky burst a seam and the world becomes a gray curtain. And the broadcast, which lives for this, cuts around the continent to show how the other players are doing. The lighthouse elite is jammed under a tree that isn't stopping any rain, knees to his chest, teeth chattering, cursing the weather. A Japanese contestant found a rock overhang that funnels wind and water in from every direction and is sneezing himself hoarse, a drowned rat with a flag on his sleeve. Then the camera swings to me and the planet stops. Because I'm leaning on a warm, dry cave wall, holding a steaming pot of hot herb tea, watching the lightning like it's a screensaver. WTF. Is this a movie shoot? Everyone's fighting for their lives and this man is on vacation. I'm not even flexing. I'm just comfortable. And I realize, sipping, that for our raw meat ancestors a night like this, thunder covering footsteps, rain washing away scents, every predator hiding in its den, was one of the few nights nature ever gave off. That safety is stitched into the genes. It's why people sleep well in a storm. I rig the pot and line alarm again, pull the blanket tight, and let the rain sing me down. Better safe than sorry is the whole religion out here. I sleep like a man who isn't being hunted, which turns out to be premature, but I'll get to that. Day 3, the wilderness raises the stakes on everyone. A cold announcement, global. To intensify the competition, 1,000 supply drops have been scattered across the continent, marked by red smoke. Contents random: food, water, first aid, tools, axes, and, quote, even firearms. Good luck. And the planet correctly panics. A survival show just turned into a battle royale with a loot table, and the lighthouse country has 30-odd ex-SEALs who would very much like a gun. Godly way, the comments beg, don't go join the fun. I look up at a sky roofed over by canopy, no drops landing near me anyway, and I turn around and walk to my trap. An airdrop is a maybe with variables. My pit is a known quantity with a bear-shaped answer in it. The expert nearly falls out of his chair praising it. Giving up a sure thing to gamble on a vague one is a cardinal sin of strategy, he says. Li Wei was born a hunter. Someone in the comments asks if he's just always right no matter what, and he pushes up his glasses and says, suppress this person. I'm starting to love these people. The rain turned the forest to soup, and it takes half an hour to slog back. From a distance, I catch it. Under the wet earth, a thread of blood smell. My heart jumps. It worked. I get low, spear up, ghost the last stretch. The camouflage has caved into a big torn crater, signs of a serious struggle all around. Something fell. In my head, I'm already tasting bear paw. I sprint the last few meters and look down, spear ready for the finishing blow. It's not a bear, it's a red deer, a big one, 200 or 300 pounds, eyes already glassed over, run through by half a dozen of my stakes. It must have bolted in the storm, lost its footing in the dark, and delivered itself. A flicker of disappointment, honestly, that it isn't the bear. Then my brain does the math on 300 pounds of fat and protein and calories, and the disappointment evaporates. This isn't just meat, this is capital. Ding. 10,000 red deer, central square of the capital. And the country watches thousands of deer pour out of a portal like the world's biggest dumpling steamer, galloping across a plaza in an era that forgot animals could exist in numbers. I climb down, bleed it, and turn the shovel into a scalpel. Leg, ribs, tenderloin, the whole beast broken down into neat pieces in the time it takes to say it. Clean enough that a viewer who's been a butcher for 20 years types that he's ashamed of himself. I shoulder the heaviest hind leg, over 50 pounds, haul it to the cave, weigh it down on the coldest slab, and turn straight back for load number 2. 2 more trips. And that decision to make 2 more trips is where the wilderness reminds me it was never actually on my side. 20 minutes later, I drop back into the pit for the second load, and my body freezes before my brain reads the room. The pit's empty. The venison, the bones, gone. And where my deer used to be, there are footprints, each one bigger than the blade of my shovel. 5 thick toes pressed deep into the mud, and at the front of each toe, 5 parallel gouges over 10 centimeters long, 5 daggers signing a death sentence into the ground. On one wall of the pit, the earth's torn into a rough ramp. The thing didn't climb out. It built a road with its hands. 500 kilograms of bear, minimum. And it was standing right behind me while I hauled the first leg away, whistling. If I'd left 1 minute later, the command booth goes pale doing my math with me. Even professional hunters, the expert says, don't touch a brown bear this size. I stand in the bottom of my own trap next to a paw print the size of a dinner plate, and the anger comes up cold instead of hot. My meat, walking around in another animal's stomach. My neighbor, a 500-kilo thief. I touch a claw mark, the soil's still soft, it just left. It's probably enjoying my deer somewhere close. Fine. I climb out. I don't cook. I don't rest, because sitting still just feeds the fire. I need to make something. I need a bow. I grab my gear and go find a part of this forest I haven't wrecked yet. A kilometer out, my perception pings. A grove that doesn't match its surroundings. Gray-white trunks, oval leaves. My whole day turns around. Mulberry, my bowstring hanging on a tree. I strip long sheets of bark, roll them up, and something gently pats me on the shoulder. Warm. Fingers. In a forest where I know for a fact I'm alone. I go from calm to counterattack in under a second. Twist, cover, shovel screaming backhand through the air, and there's nothing behind me. Then a screech overhead, a half-grown monkey hanging upside down, one paw still stuck out in the shoulder pat position, grinning at me with a mouthful of yellow teeth. It spits, a fat glob of sour saliva, right at my face, which I tilt out of the way of. Then it grabs my backpack straps and yanks, cackling, riding the anger the bear left in me. Bad timing, little guy. A bear robbed me 2 hours ago. I am not in the market for a second landlord. The shovel comes around with everything my waist can put into it, and, I'll spare you the anatomy, the monkey does not get to steal from anyone ever again. The forest goes silent. Back home, the stream splits down the middle. Half cheering the catharsis, half appalled that I'd do that to a monkey. Someone unfollows on principle. And then the expert cuts through all of it. He's watched enough animals to know a scared one from a bold one, and a monkey that walks up to a human and robs him isn't cute, it's a scout, and if I let it win, it comes back tomorrow with the whole troop and takes everything I own. Kindness in the wild, he says, is just cruelty to yourself on a delay. I don't even take the meat. I've got a deer leg at home and a grudge to service. The grudge leads somewhere better than revenge. Following a game trail, I catch a strange, half-familiar smell, earth and minerals and something salty sour, and I part the ferns onto a clearing where a fawn stands with its tongue out, patiently licking a big gray-white rock. My pupils shrink. That's a salt lick, a natural salt deposit. The thing my body's been begging for after 3 days of muscle twitches and energy crashes, because no matter how good the meat is, without salt, you can't make jerky, you can't preserve anything, and you slowly fall apart. I go still, read the wind, and put my spear through the fawn's neck before it finishes its snack. Then I chip a corner off the rock, sniff it, touch it to my tongue, and a long-lost, pure, holy saltiness explodes across my mouth. It's real. It's a salt mine. I nearly roar. A bell goes off in my skull. 10,000 forest deer, central square of the capital. And in the comments, somebody finally asks the smart question. The deer returned, so why didn't the salt mine? And it gets answered before I even have to think. Rookie, we've got enough salt back home to last until the planet cracks. The return only pays what the country actually lacks, which is exactly right, and quietly closes the biggest hole in my cheat before anyone can pick at it. The mechanism keeps flexing its comic range while I work. India's contestant Kumar found an airdrop and caught a meter-long lizard and had a genuinely good day going, until he decides on live global broadcast to do something with that lizard that I'll describe only as the reason his stream got cut for 2 hours, and the entire planet reels back from its screens in unison. Every country's chat is just question marks. The expert watching my feed instead says one word about the whole affair, madness, and goes back to being professional. I'll say this for the wilderness. It does not lack for content. Then the tone of the whole game changes with one line. A scarlet global announcement force popped onto every watch. Lighthouse country player Kyle has eliminated Brazil's Mateo. Eliminated, the word the system uses for dead. Somebody just murdered somebody. Not a bear, not a fall, not a poison mushroom. A man killed a man for his things. The expert pulls up Kyle's file. Cold. SEAL Team 6. Jungle warfare. Assassination. For a guy like that, this was never survival. It's a hunting ground. And that's the moment the whole continent tips over, because from here on, everyone still breathing is a hunter or somebody's prey, and there's no third option. The wind feels colder. I stand very still and let the new rule settle in. Good to know. I take the new rule home and turn it into infrastructure. I crush the salt ore, dissolve it, and build a filter out of a bamboo tube layered with sand, ash, and charcoal. Activated carbon, basically. Run the murky brine through 3 times till it comes out clear. Boil it down to snow-white crystals, whiter than anything you'd buy in a store. Enough salt for half a year, sealed in a bamboo tube. Then I do the thing I've earned. I score a red deer leg, rub it with fresh salt, and roast it slow. And the smell of salted meat over fire in this dead world is almost a religious experience. I tear off a piece, and it's the best meal I've had since I arrived. Not just because I was hungry, because I built the whole thing, salt included, out of nothing, in a place designed to kill me. After, I sit by the fire and make the bow. Mulberry bark string, 3 strands twisted to one. A moso bamboo body, shaved and curved and tested till the bend's just right. 12 arrows, bamboo shafts, pheasant fletching, deer bone heads fire hardened till they punch like metal. I stroke the finished bow and feel the temperature drop in my own eyes. With this, it's time to settle accounts with a certain neighbor. But first, it's check-in day. And this is where I start keeping secrets from a billion people. The system pings, 3 days survived, check in now. And it politely offers to shut off my live stream so the reward stays private. I take that offer every single time from here on. And my viewers, watching my feed go black, have exactly one theory. Godly Way shut down the stream. Is he taking a dump? No, you peasant. He's clearly cultivating some unparalleled divine art not fit for mortal eyes. Or he's secretly having a snack he doesn't want to tempt us with. They will never, ever guess the truth. And the truth is, check-in successful, reward acquired. A Colt M1911, custom, plus 30 rounds of 45. A pistol materializes on the cave floor. Jet black, cold, real. The unmistakable heft of steel and gunpowder. My heart slams my ribs because a bow put me in the age of cold weapons, and this just strapped me to a rocket into modern warfare. You little bear, you're in a lot of trouble now. Then the obvious problem. How do I explain this on camera? I can't exactly tell a billion viewers I rubbed some bamboo and vines together and produced a semi-automatic pistol. That's the kind of lie that gets a nation sanctioned by whatever's running this game. But the answer's already wrapped and waiting, courtesy of the wilderness. The airdrops. The announcement said, out loud, to the whole planet, that the drops can contain firearms. So if I find an unopened crate nobody's touched, and I happen to pull this pistol out of it, everything lines up and the gun has a paper trail nobody can argue with. I wrap the M1911 in hide, bury it in the deepest pocket of my pack, restart the stream, and walk out fully loaded. Bow, spear, shovel, and one very well hidden trump card, toward a pit, and a bear that owes me a deer. Godly Way's back, the comments cheer, and doesn't he seem more confident somehow? I just went to the toilet, someone insists. It can't have opened his meridians, if only they knew. I rebuild the trap where the bear wrecked it, reset the stakes, throw the bloody venison down as bait. Then I do the smart boring thing. I pick a huge tree beside the pit with a clean view, climb up silent, brace the spear at my side, knock a bone arrow, draw on the disguised pit below, and I wait. For hours, like the world's most patient serial killer with a jawline. While I'm up there, I don't know it, but I get scouted. Somewhere in the same forest, Mei Ling, the ace, number 1, crosses my old trail, finds bamboo shavings, reads them between her fingers, and follows them to my abandoned cave. She reads the whole story off the walls. Felled trees cut with a sharp tool, animal blood where I dressed my kills, warm embers, scattered salt. And she draws the right conclusion. Somebody extremely capable already solved food, fire, and salt, and owns this territory. And being a professional and not an idiot, she does not walk into a strong stranger's home uninvited. She backs out. She even leaves a little of her own jerky behind, rations for whatever compatriot passes through next, and disappears. Two of the Dragon Kingdom's best passed within a kilometer of each other and never knew it. The country in the stream is losing its mind wanting us to meet. The country in the stream will have to be patient. Late afternoon the sound comes. Not wind. The heavy, wet crunch of something enormous crushing leaves. My eyes snap open, and the bear walks out of the deep forest like the deep forest was getting too small for it. Over 3 meters standing, head twitching, nostrils flaring at the blood on my bait. My whole stream detonates. It's here. It's really here. Run, godly way. Arrows can't dent that thing. And then the bear does something that makes me, the country, and the entire watching planet feel a collective chill. It walks up to the pit and stops. It circles. It sniffs. Those small eyes flash with a wariness that does not belong in a head that size. It knows. Somehow it knows the free meal is a trap, and then, instead of pouncing like an animal, it grips the rim of the pit with its forepaws, presses its body to the wall, and lowers itself down, controlled, deliberate, like a man climbing into a pool. It lands at the bottom, and my carefully angled death stakes are all sitting a clean half-meter clear of it. It picks up my venison. It got the bait and dodged every spike, and my chat stops breathing. This isn't a bear. It read Sun Tzu. I thought I was watching Animal Planet, and it started running me a seminar. Every possibility I wargamed, and this was the one I didn't have. But a bear in a hole is still a bear in a hole, and to get out, it has to come up. It digs its paws into the mud and starts hauling that mountain of a body up the wall. And the second its huge muddy head clears the rim, facing me. Now, the arrow's already gone. A bow this crude and a bonehead were never punching through that skull, and I knew it. That was never the plan. The plan was the impact. It cracks the bear square in the forehead. The head snaps back. The whole animal loses its grip and drops. And this time, there's no controlled slide, no cat-like grace, just 500 kilograms falling straight down onto a floor of stakes I built exactly for this. The sound that comes up out of that pit is not one I'll forget, neither will anyone who heard it through the mic. And the roar that follows sends every bird in the forest into the sky at once. My stream flips from dead silence to open riot. I hit it. I really hit it. Listen to that. It went through. The trap worked. Serves you right. Now you know how it feels to slide down into somebody's basement. Except it's not dead. Of course it's not dead. It thrashes at the bottom, slamming those bucket-sized paws into the walls, and it kicks up such a wall of mud and dust that my whole view of the hole goes yellow. The thing made itself a smokescreen. My chat is losing it. That beast is running smoke bombs now. Is it a demon? I stop trusting my eyes and start trusting my ears, and I hear it, not pounding anymore, but climbing, dragging up the far wall, the opposite side. A huge black shape rises out of the dust with its broad, thick-maned back to me, because it figured out in one shot exactly where the danger was and turned its armor to it. I put a second arrow into that back, and it clangs off like I threw a pebble at a car door and drops, useless, without a mark. Physical defense, maxed. And then it's out, stakes still jutting from its ribs, and whatever pain should slow it down just switches every safety off instead. Its little red eyes lock onto me in the tree. It charges. No wind-up, no ceremony. 500 kilograms converting itself into a runaway tank aimed at a tree it would take 2 men to hug. The ground shakes. Brush in its path snaps like dry grass. First impact, the whole tree lurches and leaves come down like rain, and I clamp on and hold. Second impact, and I hear it, that teeth-grinding crack spidering out from the center of the trunk. Back in the booth, the expert's on his feet, hands braced on the table, leaning at the screen like he could climb through it, and he can't think of a single way a human survives the next 10 seconds. Neither can my stream. People are covering their eyes, and they're all missing it. Because a bear that just body-checked a tree needs 1 breath to reset its footing for the next charge. 1 breath. 2. Now. I let go of the branch, sling the bow, and take the spear in both hands. The hardwood one, the one I sanded and fire-hardened to an unreasonable point days ago for no reason I could have named. I don't climb higher. I don't jump to the next tree. I bend my knees, aim myself at the bear below, point down, and I step off the tree into open air. My chat thinks I've finally lost it. He jumped. He's committing suicide. And then time stretches out the way it does, and I come down like a javelin thrown by gravity itself, all my weight behind a single point. 80 kilos and 8 meters of fall funneling into one sharpened tip. The bear feels it coming and looks up, and for the first time there's fear in those little eyes. The jungle's king finding out there's something above it. Too late. The spear goes through the top of its skull and most of the shaft with it. My boots slam down onto its broad back, and I ride the last few staggering steps as the mountain runs out of orders and folds. The earth jumps when it lands. It twitches. It stops. I stand on the carcass, covered, and wipe my face with the back of my hand, about as bothered as a man flicking off a raindrop. My country cannot speak. My stream is a wall of frozen faces and open mouths, 10 million of them, and it stays that way for a good 10 seconds until one person types 3 shaking words that just say, "Holy actual," and then the dam breaks and the comments become a flood. A spear technique that fell out of the sky. He bet his life and gravity on the same throw, and won. In the booth, the expert slams the table and roars, incoherent, the words gravitational potential energy and high school physics taken to its lethal extreme tumbling out of him. He turned his own body into a weapon. The lighthouse feed, gracious as ever, refuses to believe it's real and demands a replay, and then some engineer over there runs the numbers on camera. Takeoff around 8 meters, mass around 80 kilos, terminal speed north of 12 meters per second, enough instantaneous pressure to breach a skull. Their conclusion, and I'm flattered, is that I'm a physics monster. Then the sky rings for everyone. Ding. Dragon Kingdom contestant Li Wei has hunted a mutated brown demon. 10,000-fold return. 10,000 adult brown bears of the same grade added to the Dragon Kingdom. My country now owns 10,000 giant bears, materialized into its forests and reserves, strategic value incalculable, and also somewhere a park ranger is about to have a very confusing morning. The rival nations don't even have a joke this time. Why is it China again? Our guy is still outsmarting a rabbit, and this one's slaughtering bears out of the sky. I don't hear any of it. I'm already at the stream rinsing the spear, and then I go back and do the accounting on a 500-kilo animal. Bile first, the dark green sack, worth a fortune as medicine, wrapped clean and pocketed. Then the hide, huge, tough enough to be armor someday. Then the 4 paws, the prizes, and a slab of tenderloin, rolled in the skin. My pack's too small for a fraction of it, so I leave most of a mountain of bear meat on the ground and actually apologize to it out loud, because in a starving world that's a heartbreak, but one man can't carry a bear. I go looking for a fire spot with my arms full of the best cuts, and the wilderness, apparently feeling a little bad about the deer, hands me a homecoming present, a slope of wild scallions. The exact spicy sweet smell of my childhood in eastern Shanxi, of scallion pancakes and being small. I pull up a dozen thick ones and then I build the best meal of my life so far. Bear tenderloin sliced thin, seared on a hot stone, salted with my own snow-white crystals, eaten in alternating bites with raw scallion that cuts the fat clean off the richness. A bite of meat, a bite of scallion, repeat until enlightened. My stream is in agony. I'm on a diet and this man's making me consider crimes. Even the booth caves. The expert, trying to stay professional, explains the scallion cuts, grease and fights scurvy, and then gives up and admits it just looks incredible. I sit there greasy and content and think that the only thing this needs is a little strong liquor, and I make a quiet note. Once I have a real base, I'm brewing. Barbecue and baijiu is the actual meaning of life, and I intend to find out. Then I catch it over the far trees. A thread of smoke, but wrong. Too red, too straight. Rising in a deliberate line against the sky. Not a campfire. That's the marker smoke off a landed airdrop crate. 20 kilometers out. Deep forest. A full day's walk loaded down like I am. I finish my scallions first because the crate isn't going anywhere and neither are my priorities. Then I sling the bear meat and go. The walk pays for itself before I'm halfway there. My perception tugs me sideways, off the route, and I part some brush onto a rust-red rock wall studded with grains that catch the sun and throw it back gold. I touch one. Cold, heavy, metallic, gold, a natural vein of it, nuggets up to thumb-sized, veins running through the stone worth tens of millions in a world where gold is one of the last things left with meaning. I dig out a dozen fist-sized chunks, giddy, doing appraisals out loud. This one's tens of thousands. This one's 100 grand. This whole wall is tens of millions. And on the 10th chunk, the sky rings the bell that's driven the planet insane. Ding, natural gold mine, 10,000-fold return, 10,000 large gold mines deployed randomly across the entire Dragon Kingdom. And back home, the ground trembles and gold-veined hills push up out of city squares. A glittering island rises in the Huangpu River off the Shanghai Bund. A dozen mines surface out of the sea at Shenzhen Bay. A plaza in Chengdu cracks open to show the gold running underneath. In the command center, an old general drops his teacup and demands the reserves be calculated, and the number comes back. 10,000 mines, 50 tons apiece minimum, 500,000 tons of gold, more than twice the entire planet's existing supply. The old man weeps at the ceiling. And across the ocean, the economies that ran the world for a century sit in their war rooms and quietly understand that whatever edge they thought they had just stopped existing. South Korea, gamely, claims on the internet that they invented gold first and gets roasted so thoroughly by the rest of the planet that even I would feel bad for them if I could see it. I can't. I'm just a guy with a backpack full of gold, grinning at a rock, walking toward a box in the woods. Half an hour past the gold, the sky pulls its second favorite trick, clear and sunny to bruise black in 90 seconds. The temperature falls off a cliff, and then a hailstone the size of a baby's fist cracks into my shoulder hard enough to make me yelp, and the whole sky opens up and starts throwing rocks. So I do the only thing a genius can do with an iron pot and a head. I jam the pot down over my skull like a helmet. The hail drums on it hard enough to ring my ears. I hunch over my pack and stumble to a little cave at the foot of a rock wall and dive in. My country watches their handsome living god flee a hailstorm wearing a pot on his head, sporting a bowl cut of pure survival instinct, and loves every second. The pot, when I take it off, has several new dents. The other players have it worse. The Japanese pair get pelted bloody under a useless tree. The lighthouse seal catches one on the knee in open ground and goes down. But I'm dry and I'm dented, and I'm not complaining. Then footsteps, light, steady, coming through the hail straight for my cave. My hands on the shovel before the figures clear. It's a man, medium build, mixed features, and the second he sees me, he throws both hands over his head, fingers spread, leaning slightly forward, one small step back. A surrender so clean, so practiced, so bone deep that I have exactly one thought: this guy has to be French. He pushes his backpack toward me, swears he means no harm, gestures at my scattered firewood and then his bag and says the magic word. Fire. He's got a striker in there. In this wet cold, that's not a tool, that's a lifeline. His name's Antoine Moreau, about as French as a surname gets. So I congratulate myself on a solid read. I let him shelter under 3 rules, delivered flat. You do what I say. You ask me nothing personal. And if it goes bad, every man runs for himself. He agrees so fast it's insulting. I trade him 1 skewer of bear meat for his magnesium striker, which for me is armed robbery with extra steps, reliable fire in any weather, forever, for 1 piece of meat. He watches me eat, and there's a calculation running behind his grateful little eyes, and my chat clocks it before I bother to. That Frenchman looks like a weasel casing a henhouse. They're not wrong. But I've got a flint now, and a guy telegraphing his own betrayal is barely a threat. He's a resource who thinks he's a predator. He plays it exactly as scripted. He probes, a man as strong as you must have valuable things, and I don't answer, and he backs off, and around the middle of the night, he announces he needs to step out to relieve himself and slings his entire bulging backpack over his shoulder to do it. Buddy, do you take all your worldly possessions to the toilet? Do I look 3 years old? I tell him sure, go ahead. And the instant he's gone, I kill my fire, cover the embers, grab my gear, and melt out of the cave into the dark. I set up behind a rock with an arrow already knocked, and I wait. 10 minutes, and 2 sets of sneaking footsteps come back. Antoine, lower and excited now. Boris, there's just one guy, all alone, well-equipped. The shovel and the bow alone are a fortune. And a second, heavier voice with an Eastern European grind to it, the burly Russian who eliminated the Korean earlier, going over the plan. Cripple his hands and feet first, take everything, then clean it up, leave no trace. Cooperation, huh? I put an arrow through Antoine's thigh, and the second through Boris's knife wrist before he can lift the machete, and I walk out of the dark into their moonlight looking, my stream will later tell me, like a death god paying a house call. Is this how we cooperate? I ask them. Boris tries the only card he's got. You can't kill us. It's a global broadcast. Your country will be punished by France. Sanctions, I say. You are all going to kill me. What exactly do I have left to be scared of? Survival of the fittest. And I finish it. An arrow through the eye for the man who was going to cripple me and clean me up. An arrow through the back for the one trying to run. Then I go collect my arrows because every arrow is precious, and I loot the men who were going to loot me. A full first aid kit. A Swiss Army knife that's honestly more useful than my shovel. A heavy machete. 10 meters of thick nylon rope. Half a dried rabbit. Next life, I tell the 2 of them, keep your eyes open. My country throws a party. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole. Godly Way had these 2 clowns read from the jump. France sent supplies from thousands of miles away, so thoughtful. And at the global emergency meeting, the French representative goes purple and screams murder, and my country's man slowly blows on his tea, raises an eyelid, and asks whether France believes only its players are allowed to kill and mine are required to hold still and die. The Frenchman can't answer because the rule is the rule, so instead he makes a promise. In 2 days, the player comms window opens, and he'll personally order every French player left alive to hunt down every Dragon Kingdom player at all costs. Kill on sight. My representative leans back and says, we'll wait, so that's coming. Noted. The wilderness pushes the 2 supplies Boris blabbed about into the record, a cornfield, a salt lake, northwest, and I file those for later and march for my airdrop, making fire with the striker now instead of my hands, which is like switching from a rock to a lighter, roasting Boris's dried rabbit by a stream, and then the forest goes wrong quiet again, the specific dead silence that means a person is holding their breath nearby. I stop, and I find it. A tripwire. Gut cord, strung 10 centimeters off the ground between 2 trees. Hair fine, nearly invisible, made with real skill. Not an animal trap, a people trap. I crouch, draw a couple of circles in the dirt like I'm doing sums, and map the ambush in my head. If this trips, the shots come from there and there, the 2 spots with the best cover, and then I fade back into a tree's shadow and become part of it. Arrow ready, because whoever set this made one mistake. They set it for prey, and I'm not prey. 30 meters off, glued to a tree like a lizard, is the Japanese fighter, Little Bazaar. Near him, calm and sure, is Kato Akari herself, the ninja ace, promising him their gut cord trap is an ancient method no ordinary scout could spot, telling him to be patient, the Chinese man will take one more step and die. A gray hair wanders out of the brush. Bazaar's scope twitches to it for 1 single second, and that second is where he loses everything. My arrow pins his right wrist to the tree. Kato rolls clear with her blade up. I put a second arrow through his other wrist, both hands crucified, a screaming T nailed to a trunk. Then it's her and me. She flicks 3 sharpened stones at my face, chest, and shins and comes in low from the flank with the short sword drawn, and I don't retreat. I lean out of the stone's path with pure waste and let them bury themselves in the tree behind me. Then it's shovel against dagger, and my enhanced strength splits her hand open on the first clash and knocks her back 2 steps. Is this Chinese man a monster? She has time to think, and then my boot's already coming for the head she just lowered. She crosses her arms to save her face, and it's like getting hit by a battering ram. She goes into a tree, spits blood, vision going. She tries the last card anyone tries out here. We can cooperate, split the resources, split the airdrop. Cooperate, I say, and I let her hope for 1 second. Sure, leave all your gear, and then commit seppuku. That's my offer. Japan's command center puts a fist through a table, but there's no counteroffer coming, and I finish it, both of them, and 2 global eliminations post back to back and light my country up. The first 2 of Japan's aces, off the board. The same 2 who, 3 days ago, were too busy cuddling to survive. The wilderness has a sense of humor. I told you, the airdrop crate's sitting in a clearing under a snagged parachute, and before I touch it, I cut my stream. Private, 2 hours, my daily right. The whole planet groans. It's the crucial moment. What's in the box? And the lighthouse country officially protests that shutting off during an airdrop is cheating and the contents must be disclosed. And my government officially replies that the protest is invalid and to have a nice day. Only the booth expert quietly guesses close. He's not hiding it from us. Maybe he just doesn't want everyone to know at once. Smart man. Inside the crate, no guns, no ammo, no tech, seeds, waterproof sealed bags of high-yield cold-resistant potato, fast-growing drought-resistant corn, high-protein soybean, plus a military first aid kit, a multi-tool axe and pliers, and a palm-sized solar panel. In a world that's starved to death, seeds that reliably make food are worth more than any weapon on the continent, and my eyes light up. I pack it all fast. And then I do the thing I cut the stream for. I take the M1911 and 2 magazines out of the deepest pocket of my pack, and I lay them in the empty crate. Now the gun came from an airdrop. Now there's a paper trail. Then I get ready to restart the stream, and my perception screams, people, more than one, coming fast. I'm behind a tree and gone before the first one clears the brush, and then 3 big shapes walk into the clearing, 3 lighthouse players, and dragging between them, hands bound, thigh wrapped in a bloody bandage, face pale, jaw set, eyes still burning like a wolf in a trap, Mei Ling, number 1. The ace who stood in my empty cave 2 days ago and chose not to intrude. The leader, a seal they call Ghost, sweeps his eyes over my crate and smiles and calls out into the trees. Come out, friend of the Dragon Kingdom. I know you're there. Your teammate's with us, and if you'd rather she keep the number of holes she came with, hand over the airdrop. Switching to Mei Ling's feed, my whole country's heart stops at once. 3 on 1. She's hurt, and Godly Wei is somewhere right there. I do the math cold, and the math says a straight fight is bad. 3 armed crossbow and recurve and a machete, my ally down and useless, so I don't have a straight fight. Mei Ling's eyes find my shadow for half a second, and she gives the smallest shake of her head. Don't, just live. And I understand exactly what she means, and I have my own plans. I step out with my hands up and just the right amount of fear on my face, begging them not to hurt her. The stuff's in the box, take it please. The country wails, sure, I'm folding. The ghost, delighted, tells me to open the crate and show him the treasure. So I crouch in front of it and I fumble at the lid like it's stuck and I complain that it's tight and my body just happens to block everyone's view while my hand goes inside. Hurry up, the big one snarls. Okay, I say, and then I turn around and what's in my hand isn't a shovel or a bow, it's a Colt. The first shot takes the machete man between the eyebrows before anyone's brain finishes updating. The second takes the archer through the chest as his hand's still finding his string. 2 of 3, gone, in the time it takes to read this. The ghost, Brock, gets his crossbow half up and I put 1 shot through it, out of his hands, and 1 through his shoulder, and he screams and rolls and scrambles and is gone into the deep forest without a look back at his own dead men, start to finish, 10 seconds, and a continent that watched me play a terrified hostage sits in dead silence for half a minute before it explodes. A gun. It's a gun. The airdrop had a gun. Who said Godly Way was going to compromise? Step forward. When Godly Way acts, he deserves an Oscar. And in the booth, the expert isn't celebrating. He's grim. Because he understands what I understand. I just spent my biggest secret in front of the planet, and the one man who saw it lived. Brock's a SEAL. Brock's going to tell every Lighthouse player alive there's a devil out here with a gun, and they will stop competing and start hunting me specifically. The balance just broke, he says, because Li Wei exists. I cut the ropes off Mei Ling and get my first real look at the ace up close, and she gets her first look at me, and there's a whole storm behind her eyes. Shock, gratitude, and a deep confusion, because the man who was a shaking hostage 1 second was a grim reaper the next, and that is not something a college student should be able to do. Thank you, she says, hoarse, and tries to stand and can't. Don't move, I tell her, flat, and I open the airdrop first aid kit, cut her trouser leg, and get to work on a barbed crossbow bolt buried in her thigh. I pull it clean in 1 push. She grits down and doesn't make a sound. Hit it with hemostatic powder, clean it, and start suturing. Needle steady, spacing even. Knots textbook, and she stares at my hands like she's seen a ghost because she's only ever watched elite military doctors stitch a battlefield like this. Who are you? She says. Really? I tie off the last knot and meet her eyes and don't answer, and being who she is, she doesn't ask again. Everyone gets to keep their secrets out here. Survival's the only thing that isn't optional. I don't call her comrade. I tell her the truth as I see it. We're not 2 people now. We're 2 numbers on the Dragon Kingdom's list of survivors, and as long as she's alive, the country's got 1 more sliver of hope. It's cold, and it's transactional, and it lands on her like nothing has in a long time, because she's a soldier used to the warm words, brothers in arms, fellow soldiers, and I just defined us as a survivors' alliance built on national interest, cruel and completely honest. She looks at me a beat too long, then she nods. I loot the 2 dead Lighthouse players, a tactical vest, a composite crossbow, a full jar of carbon fiber arrows, top gear, and when she frowns at me, stripping bodies, I tell her, simply, they're the enemy, and their friends will be back with more, and we leave right now. I put out my hand, blood and mud and all. After a second, she takes it, and I pull her up. Just like that, the Dragon Kingdom has a team of 2. Deep in the forest, Brock runs, replaying those 10 hellish seconds, swearing to make me pay 1,000 times over. Carrying home the one piece of news that changes everything. The Chinese have guns. He's going to gather every player Lighthouse has left and build a net I can't slip. Good. Let him. It gives me a deadline. That night, out fetching water for my injured ally, I find a beehive humming in a dead tree, and where most people hear danger, I hear sugar. A strategic resource out here, same as salt, energy, and a little sweetness to keep a person's soul from going out. I don't smash it. I make a smoke torch, damp mugwort rolled in green leaves over a steady ember, cool white smoke, not hot, and I fumigate the hive till the bees go drunk and drop, and then I pry the tree open on a slab of golden comb glowing amber in the moonlight, and the smell of real honey pours through the mic and my entire country swallows at once. I take 2/3 and leave the rest, because emptying a pond is how you starve next month. Ding. 10,000 wild beehives spread across the country, an agricultural and ecological windfall in one delivery. I've got water, honey, and a plan, and I turn to carry it back to Mei Ling, and a rusty, murderous cold rises out of the bushes behind me, a pair of eyes fixed on my spine, and my perception howls, and I very, very slowly set down my pot. The wilderness, right on schedule, is not done with me tonight. The thing in the bushes is a gray wolf bigger than any gray wolf has a right to be, crouched low, muscles bunched, reading the blood smell off me. My hand crawls toward the pistol, slow, and just before my fingers touch the grip, it throws its head back and howls, long, high, carrying, and my stomach drops through the floor because that wasn't a threat, that was a phone call. It never planned to fight me alone. It's a pack animal, and it just told the whole pack where dinner is. No more slow. I draw and put a round through its eye before the howl finishes, and it drops without a twitch. And it doesn't matter, because from 3 directions at once the woods answer, howl on howl, rolling in fast. I grab my pot and run for camp because a wolf pelt and wolf meat are worth a lot, but a life is worth more, and I have to get Mei Ling and break out before the circle closes. She's already up when I get there, spear in hand, thighs screaming under her, in full combat posture because she heard the shot and the howls and did my math with me. Pack, at least 7 coming, I tell her in a sentence, and she says one word, stream, the exact word already in my head. Running water masks, scent, and tracks, and wolves hate it, and it's our only road out. No wasted words between us. A tacit understanding already sitting where a friendship should be. We move. Me cutting the path, her eating the pain and keeping quiet. The howls close. The panting gets close enough to smell. A gray shape ghosts out of the flank going straight for her because they always pick the slow one. I put a round in its back before its teeth reach her shoulder, and it goes down screaming instead of dying. And that scream is the pack's signal to stop hunting and charge. A dozen green eyes light up in the trees at once, so we jump into the icy stream, both of us, the cold like a fist, the current dragging, the wolves stacking up on both banks, refusing to follow us into the water. For 1 second I think we've won. Then Mei Ling's face goes wrong. Flushed, then bone white, breath ragged, and she gets the words out through chattering teeth. The arrow wound. It might be infected, and out here, infection is a death sentence with a slow fuse. She's burning up in freezing water, which means it's bad, 39 at least, and she does the soldier thing. She tries to push me off and tells me to leave her, go downstream, lose them. She doesn't even have the strength to lift her hand while she says it, and this is the part I don't undercut with a joke, because there isn't one. I press my face to her forehead to take her temperature, scalding, and I tell her the exact truth. If I ever feel my own life is actually threatened, I'll leave you. That's real. But not now. Not tonight. My whole country hears it and comes apart. That's a real man. That's the spirit of our army. And someone, of course, yells at all of them to stop being sentimental and look at the bank because the pack's splitting to flank us downstream. I hardened myself and did the only thing left, flipped her onto her back, cradled her head above water, swam us to shore backstroke, slower but keeping her breathing, the river cold as death on my cheeks and the woman in my arms hot as a coal. That temperature gap told me exactly how fast she was slipping. I hauled us onto a shallow beach and heavy footsteps came from ahead and I saw a black hole in a rock wall and carried her into it with the last of what I had. The cave's deeper than it looks, and my skin prickles. It's been lived in. Cleared floor, little hand-carved shelves in the wall, a faint recent smell of smoke. Somebody was here not long ago. But Mei Ling's at a critical fever, and there's no time to care, so I lay her down, wash the festering wound, cool her with a damp cloth, and press the M1911 to the cave mouth when the howls arrive right outside. A gray wolf noses in 3 meters off and Mei Ling convulses and lets out a tiny sound and the wolf's ears snap up. It heard and my fingers on the trigger, one shot from giving away everything. When a howl from the alpha calls it back to some new prey and it turns and goes. Cold sweat down my whole back, close. And then the previous tenant comes home. A Japanese player, Yamamoto, strolls up humming, a fat rabbit in hand, an entire relaxed evening planned, and, this being that kind of place, mutters something about how nice it'd be to catch a Chinese woman to serve him, which I'll note and then never think about again. He never makes it inside. The wolf pack catches him at the mouth of his own cave, and they don't make it fast. They play, the way wolves do, and I'll spare you the details. The short version is he doesn't get up, and the pack now has something to eat that isn't us. Good people, I tell the unconscious Mei Ling, are out there feeding the wolves for us. In the morning, I loot Yamamoto's shredded pack and find a compass, and foil wrapped at the bottom of a basic med kit that shouldn't have anything good in it, 1 single tablet of amoxicillin, an antibiotic. In this world, that little pill is worth 100 times its weight in the gold I'm carrying, and it's precisely the one thing standing between Mei Ling and a grave. I feed it to her, the fever breaks, and when she wakes to find me grilling honey-glazed bear meat over the fire, bear she didn't know I had, honey she didn't know I had, she stares at me like the laws of physics filed a complaint, and asks, again, who I actually am, and I tell her I shot a bear and raided a beehive on the way over, no big deal, and she goes quiet and studies my very average-looking face and cannot for the life of her figure out how it hunts bears. It's the first time I see her almost smile. I decide I like it. While we heal up in a dead man's cave, the world outside stops laughing and starts planning a war. In the Lighthouse Country's octagonal command center, a commander looks at my face on the main screen and gives the order for the moment the comms window opens. Every Lighthouse player, wherever they are, converges on the Central Mountains. Any Chinese they see, they kill on sight, no prisoners. In Japan, a room full of officials seething over 3 dead aces resolves the same thing and starts building a coalition. Lighthouse, Korea, anyone who hates China, to hunt us as a block. And in my own country's command center, they read the board and send the week's one message to every dragon player at once. The enemy is uniting to hunt our lone players. Abandon your tasks and converge at all costs toward the central mountain region where Li Wei and Mei Ling are. If attacked, kill without hesitation. And to Comrade Li Wei specifically, the whole nation is behind you. Do whatever you have to do. Don't hesitate. The message lands on our 2 watches in a dead man's cave. Mei Ling reads it, and her knuckles go white, and something like joy she doesn't notice creeps into her voice because she's a soldier and she's been handed a war. Looks like we're targets, she says. A target, I tell her, can also be a hedgehog studded with arrows, and whoever comes close dies. Eat. Get your strength back. We need a place to build. That morning it's check-in day, so I take my 2 hours of privacy, and my country assumes, as ever, that I'm using the facilities, and the system hands me the reward that turns me from a survivor into an industry. Master-level forging. It's not a fact dropped into my head. It's a flood. Stone tools to bronze to steel. How to read an ore. How to hold a temperature. When to quench. How to hammer. Every ancient craftsman's hard-won trick, fused with modern metallurgy, and blueprints scrolling behind my eyes. Swords, armor, traps, pulleys, and, I actually stop breathing, a semi-automatic ballista that fires bolts and bursts. In a world with barely any guns, that thing is a nightmare. Make a few dozen, 1 for every dragon player, and the picture that paints. A joint hunt, is it? Fine. Let me show you what a steel torrent actually looks like. Now I need a home worth the name, defensible, watered, with a forest for fuel and a vein for the forge, and forging gives me a bonus I didn't expect, a sense for metal in the earth, the ground reading as a treasure map instead of dirt. I head north with Mei Ling and I find it, a natural circular valley, on one side a cliff hundreds of meters high with a waterfall pouring off it, an unclimbable wall. On the other, flat black soil begging to be farmed. Behind it, endless primeval forest for firewood and game. And only one narrow mouth, easy to hold, hell to storm, a fortress with the rent already paid. And when Mei Ling scrapes the rust-red rock of the cliff and it flakes off the color of old blood, I confirm the rest. A hematite vein, 65% grade, enough iron to arm a regiment. This, I tell her, is home. Somewhere out there, other dragon players are already converging on us. An ex-marine, an actress, and 2 foreign players, a pair of Swiss, scout our valley from a ridge and decide, wisely, that a place this good sits at the center of a coming storm, and they'd rather wait and watch. Smart of them. It won't save them, but it's smart. First thing I do at the new fortress is walk down to the deep jade pool under the waterfall. I want it for drinking and quenching, and the first thing the pool tells me is that it's wrong. Crystal water, a few little fish, and nothing else. No big aquatic life in an enormous pool that should be full of it. I dip my fingers and the cold shoots up my arm and my perception screams. There's something at the bottom of this pool. Something huge, something extremely dangerous, and it's home, which is a problem. Nobody drinks from a pool with that in it, but it's also an opportunity. Whatever's big enough to keep every other predator out of a pool this size is, by definition, a walking pile of resources. And if it triggers a return, well, so I build for it. Forging tells me a bow's useless in water, so I make 3 harpoons instead. Ash shafts. Obsidian heads napped to a perfect rhombus with blood grooves, feathered for stable flight, each one trailing tens of meters of woven vine rope, so I can retrieve it whether it hits or misses. Whale-grade gear made from a rock and a stream. I throw spoiled bear meat into the pool as bait, and Mei Ling and I take up harpoons a few meters back, and we wait. The surface goes still, then it boils, bubbles like the water's coming to a simmer, the bait gone in an instant, and then a head breaks the surface that isn't a fish and isn't a snake. Dark green, hard as rock, a mouth that could take a bison whole, rows of teeth, and behind it, a body 5 meters and more of armored muscle, a tail thick as a barrel, a prehistoric alligator, the largest living reptile the expert can name, bite force past a ton, an apex predator that's been sitting in the dark under our waterfall for who knows how many years. My country's collective soul leaves its body. What is that? Godzilla. I throw first, full power, and the obsidian just skates off the neck scales and leaves a white scratch. Too hard. Mei Ling's smarter. Goes for the soft seam where the foreleg meets the belly, and her harpoon bites. An inch. Sticks in the muscle. And then the thing whips its head, and the rope in her hands nearly yanks her into the water, and it lunges at her on the bank, jaws wide, and she barely dances clear. And in that half second while it's committed to the miss, I've already got the pistol out, and I put a round into its one exposed eye. It roars in a way that shakes the trees, rolls on the bank throwing up mud, and I don't waste the opening. I take the last harpoon and drive it two-handed through the ruined eye socket into the brain, and I twist hard, feeling the tip shred something soft and vital, and then I let go and get clear, because a dying thing that size is more dangerous than a live one. Its tail, thicker than a bucket, comes off the ground like a steel whip with its string cut and starts smashing craters into the bank. And Mei Ling's just found her feet when it sweeps past her a couple meters away, close enough that the wind of it stings her face, close enough that a step slower makes her pace. It takes 2 full minutes of frenzy before the light goes out of it, and a ton of armored death finally lies still. And Mei Ling and I stand there soaked and heaving, and, for 1 second, we look at each other and grin like idiots who just did something insane and lived. Ding. 10,000 ancient alligators of the same grade distributed into rivers and lakes across the Dragon Kingdom with, and I appreciate the honesty, an official warning to the public to please be careful. Somewhere back home, a fisheries department is having the worst meeting of its career. We can't move a 1-ton corpse, so we process it on the spot, and it's an afternoon of butchery. The hide comes off like a dark green carpet of iron scales, and I keep every scrap of it. That's armor. The tail is almost all gelatin and tender meat, the prime cut. And I explain to the whole watching country like a food show host that it's got no fishy taste at all, better than top-grade steak. How do you know that? Mei Ling asks. I learned it on TV, I tell her, which is the answer I give to every question I can't answer, and she's learned to just let it go. We bury the skeleton and organs right there as fertilizer, because I've got airdrop seeds in my pack and a valley to farm, and apparently the urge to farm is welded into a Chinese person's genes no matter where the universe drops him. Then we eat. Crocodile tail seared over a fire. And it's exactly as good as I promised, and Mei Ling, who's spent this whole game running on fumes and misery, takes 1 bite of something delicious in a safe place next to someone she trusts and looks for a moment like a person again. And while we settle into paradise, my second teammate is earning the hard way. Xu Hao, ex-Marine, built like a brick outhouse and twice as loud, is tracking toward the valley and having a genuinely humbling week. First, a troop of monkeys robs him of a whole bag of wild fruit and pelts him with the pits, and when he climbs the tree to teach them manners, the Monkey King boots him off it, and he retreats with a fraction of his fruit and a lifelong grudge. Remember the monkeys. They matter later. Then he stumbles on a Japanese player mid-squat in the bushes, blissfully murmuring kimochi to himself, and Xu Hao, being a professional, cuts his throat clean and moves on. But that draws the multinational hunting party, Brock, back on his feet, riding with a Japanese swordsman named Sasaki Kojiro, and they chase him and graze his waist with an arrow, and when they nearly corner him, he does the one thing that saves his life. He presses flat, slows his heart, and produces a flawless owl call from deep in his throat, and a lighthouse guard grumbles it's just a bird and lowers his bow, and Xu Hao inches away on his belly for 100 meters before he dares to run. My country adores him instantly. What a legend, ruthless and hilarious. Shame he's not a comedian. He's going to fit in great. Back at the valley, Mei Ling and I lay out everything we own on the bear hide, and even she, a special forces captain who's seen supply depots, goes quiet because the pile is absurd. The M1911 with maybe 20 rounds left, a composite crossbow, and a jar of carbon fiber arrows, 3 obsidian harpoons still tacky with alligator, a machete, a Swiss Army knife, spare daggers, 4 iron pots, a striker, binoculars, a compass, salt, honey, 2 first aid kits, high-yield seeds, a bear skin, and a folded alligator hide big enough for a bed. My whole country stares at it. Did God Li Wei move a supermarket into the woods? Mei Ling looks from the arsenal to me, calmly taking things out like it's laundry, and thinks the thing everyone at home is thinking. That I've been surviving out here about as hard as a man on vacation, and no college student has any business being able to do this. She keeps the thought to herself. She's good at that. Then we upgrade the shelter for real. A thermal blanket ceiling that bounces the heat back down. A floor dugout and lined with dry grass and bear fur so the ground can't steal our warmth. Out of a cave and a corpse and a lot of stubbornness, we've built the first genuinely comfortable home in the wilderness. The only enemy that gets through the defenses that night is mosquitoes, which I fan out with a leaf, cursing, because the wilderness will let you kill a 1-ton alligator and still lose to a bug. Balance in all things. With a home to defend, I go from surviving to building an economy. Exploring the valley turns up wild kiwi vines. Another chime, 10,000 of them across the country. Not a gold mine, but it lands like a sweet breeze. Then shepherd's purse and bracken for greens, and on a sunny slope a patch of wild tobacco that makes the longtime smoker in me very happy. Only about 40% of it is recreational. Tobacco water is a natural pesticide for the crops I'm about to plant. The alkaloids make a topical painkiller, and yes, a man's allowed one luxury. I string the leaves to cure near the fire, and Mei Ling watches me fuss over them and delivers the driest line of the week. Is this what men's happiness looks like? I just laugh, because it absolutely is. Then I build the thing that changes everything, a furnace. I dig fine yellow clay from the stream, cut it with coarse sand and chopped straw, which the expert back home recognizes, delighted, as the exact ancient rammed earth recipe, before wondering out loud where a college student learned it. I shape a meter-tall blast furnace by hand, no mold, 10-centimeter walls, a vent for a bellows. While it dries, Mei Ling slips into the forest with the longbow and comes back dragging a sika deer as tall as she is, dropped with a single arrow through the eye socket at range. And I feel a genuine, uncomplicated jolt of respect. I always knew she was strong, but there's strong, and then there's this. Well done, I tell her, and mean it more than the 2 words carry. And the permanently frozen lines of her face soften a fraction. Then I go pry hematite off the cliff, and the sky rings for 10,000 large hematite mines deployed to the northwest. Somewhere back home, a steelworker is crying at his screen about the cornerstone of a nation he's right to. A country that lost its steel just got it back. Iron is temperature, and temperature needs forced air. So I cut a deerskin bellows, layer charcoal and crushed ore into the furnace, and pump until the coals go from red to orange to a white that hurts to look at. Molten iron trickles out the tap hole along a channel I dug in the mud. The first man-made metal in a dead world. I pour it into rows of clay arrowhead molds. When they cool, I crack the shells off, and there they are. 70, 80 barbed iron heads, rough but real. Weapons of war, where 2 weeks ago there was a college kid with a fishing string. It's hot work, so, streams off for the check-in anyway. I take my shirt off. That turns out to be a scheduling error. Because the 2 hours end, and the feed snaps back on to show a billion people a shirtless man glistening over a pile of iron arrowheads, and my country nearly faints in unison, half of them about the abs. Half of them, correctly, about the fact that those are iron. He shut the stream for 2 hours and came back having invented the Iron Age. Someone get the experts. Is this reasonable? Is this even physically possible? From today, call him Engineer Lee. That was the check-in reward, by the way. This time the system didn't hand me a tool. It handed me a body, physical enhancement, a permanent comprehensive boost to muscle, nerve speed, endurance, recovery. I feel it land as a wave of heat through the bones. Every joint pops. The muscle goes dense and certain under the skin. To test it, I walk to a bluish boulder that must weigh 200 pounds, the one I've been walking around for days, and I pick it up like a chicken. Steady breath, steady heart. 200 pounds, lifted like a bag of rice. I set it down and stare at my own hands. There's a version of this where I roar at the sky. I settle for very, very satisfied, which is when a voice comes ringing through the trees. Brother Lee, we're back. We found something big, and my found family starts arriving whether I planned for it or not. It's the actress. Zhang Xu, number 58, the one the whole country wrote off on day 1. And she's a horror show of mud and thorn scratches, and she survived alone this long on tree climbing she learned for a period drama and berries and dew, which means the delicate pop star has a spine of rebar nobody knew about. What she and Mei Ling found in the brush is a newborn calf, still slick, umbilical cord attached, a mother cow scared off by a predator, and my first genuine thought, out loud, delighted, is that we're having whole roast beef tonight, which earns me a pair of unimpressed looks. Mei Ling, patient as a landmine, explains that a live cow is a strategic resource, milk. And when it grows, a draft animal that hauls ore and plows fields and eats nothing but grass. I did in fact forget that productivity exists. We name it patches. And with a third mouth in camp, I build the first true mark of civilization. A proper latrine, dug deep, walled, downwind, which doubles as future fertilizer and more importantly, means we've stopped living like animals. My country weeps with pride over a toilet. And honestly, so do I a little. It's the little things. Xu Hao arrives that night the way he does everything, loudly and bleeding. He trips my perimeter alarm, staggers into the firelight caked in mud with a dark stain spreading at his waist, and manages to hold up the dragon crest on his sleeve and gasp out, "Dragon Kingdom, Xu Hao," before he slides down a tree and passes out. We haul him in. Mei Ling pours disinfectant into the arrow graze on his side. He wakes up screaming a word I won't repeat, and then, patched and fed, he's exactly the teammate you'd want. An ex-Marine with iron loyalty and a mouth that never stops. The team's 4 now, and after he's inhaled a deer steak, he catches me lighting my pipe and stops mid-sentence, staring like I'm holding the Holy Grail. A pipe. You have a pipe. Give me 1 hit. I slaughtered a Japanese guy today. That counts as a good deed. I'll die unfulfilled otherwise. I pack it fresh and hand it over, and he takes one enormous greedy pull of raw, uncured tobacco and folds in half, coughing, tears and snot everywhere, absolutely radiant with joy. Slow down, I tell him. He does not slow down. It becomes his entire personality, and I have to promise to carve him his own before he'll drop it. Then we arm up for real, because Brock and the Japanese swordsman Sasaki are out there with a multinational hunting party, and passive defense just gets you worn down. The iron arrowheads get sharpened and fitted, and when we test one, it punches clean through an 8-centimeter log and buries itself in the dirt beyond. These aren't hunting tools anymore, they're war. And I take the alligator hide and cut it into scaled breastplates. One for me, Mei Ling, Xu Hao, and one, slightly smaller, for Zheng Xu. She stares at it and points at herself, hardly daring. Me too? Definitely, I tell her. Put it on, and you live. Her eyes go wet, and she nods hard. Xu Hao thumps his own chest like a drum and declares it a bulletproof vest and terrifying and just a little cold against the skin. 4 of us stand under the waterfall in armor made from a monster, iron heads at our waists. Now, I tell them, it's our turn to be the hunters. And back home, the country cuts off Lighthouse Country's iron supply and starts shipping ore to Lighthouse Country's enemies instead, because the war for the nation's fate is being fought on more tables than mine. The plan I come up with to crack Brock's camp is, I'll be honest, unhinged. We scout it first. Brock's got 2 sentries hidden high in trees flanking the camp, textbook covert posts, positioned so that even if you arrow them, their bodies crash down loud enough to wake everyone. It's a beautiful, unsolvable setup. And worse, they've got a captive, a Dragon Kingdom player, one of ours, thrown out into the dirt like garbage. We can't just snipe our way in without getting a compatriot killed. What we need is chaos, the kind that leaves the enemy no seconds to spare. And I look at Xu Hao's face, still sour about a certain troop of monkeys, and inspiration arrives with a grin. Xu Hao, you said some monkeys robbed you? His small eyes light up with a terrible understanding. We're going to make the monkeys do it, he says. I get it. You cunning little. So we go back to the monkey grove and capture 7 of the meanest, tie them up and haul them squealing toward the camp, living, furious, grudge-bearing chaos grenades. One of the monkeys, Xu Hao notices with genuine confusion, smells distinctly of alcohol, which makes no sense until it does. The little bandits have been stashing fruit in tree hollows to ferment. Monkey wine. A discovery he files away with the reverence of a man who has not had a drink in years. I brief Zhang Xu on her part quietly, a job that goes pale across her face because it's the scariest and most important thing anyone's asked her to do. She tries to refuse. I'll mess it up, and I tell her the truth. I believe in you, and if it doesn't work, I've got a backup, so go. Something in her hardens. She takes the M1911, because that's the plan. The delicate actress everyone wrote off is going to circle behind an enemy camp in the dark, alone, holding the single most powerful weapon we own. And wait, 3 in the morning, the hour when human nerves are at their lowest, we crawl to the edge of Brock's camp and throw the monkeys in. 7 furious, terrified, grudge-carrying monkeys launched over the wall like living grenades, one of them landing square in the banked embers and coming up shrieking and on fire, and the camp goes from asleep to hell in a single second. Men and monkeys everywhere, claws and curses, everyone swinging at the wrong thing in the dark, and under the cover of all that noise, Mei Ling and Xu Hao calmly put iron arrows through the 2 tree sentries, the crashes lost in the chaos, the 2 most dangerous eyes in the camp, shut before anyone knows we're here. Then we work them, iron arrows against their handful of wooden ones, from the shadows, and they can't find us, and the ground fills up with bodies while they shoot blind at nothing. 2 things happen in the middle of it. 1. A figure with a Dragon Kingdom crest on his sleeve does not pick up a weapon and does not fight. He crawls out the back of the camp and runs, alone, into the dark. And something in me files him away cold. Because that's the coward who sold our captured man to Brock in the first place. And cowards like that are a wound that reopens later. He gets away tonight. He won't always. 2. Brock, no fool, realizes he's losing and grabs his hostage. Chen Kai, one of ours, beaten half to death, hauls him up as a shield with a dagger at his throat and screams into the dark for us to drop our weapons and come out and kneel, or he bleeds. And my whole country goes cold with despair, because it looks exactly like the trap it is. I come out, hands up, weapon dropped, the picture of a man folding to save his friend. Brock grins like he's won. Mei Ling and Xu Hao step out behind me on my word, playing furious and beaten. And Brock, savoring it, never once looks at the small shape that's been circling behind him in the dark this whole time. The delicate actress everyone wrote off. The one holding my pistol in 2 shaking hands, tears cutting through the dirt on her face, repeating the only thing keeping her upright. I believe in you. Go. She closes her eyes. She opens them, and she shoots Brock through the back. The ghost of the lighthouse country goes down staring at the red blooming on his own chest, unable in his last second to understand why the Chinese would hand a weapon that important to someone who isn't the boss. The dagger falls. Chen Kai drops free, and I'm already moving. Sasaki Kojiro, the swordsman, barely has time to register that his captain just died to a woman he never counted, and I cross the distance before he finishes the thought. He gets one perfect cutoff, the fast, accurate, ruthless strike of a lifetime's training, aimed at my throat, and I don't dodge it. I just hit him first. One punch. Enhanced body, 200-pound boulder, physics monster punch, straight into his gut. It's like a charging rhino met a rotten fruit. The sword flies out of his hand. He goes off his feet and into a tree hard enough to shake it, slides down, and coughs out his last confused thought. How does a Chinese man have power like this, and doesn't get up? Xu Hao, who charged in to help, stands there with his fist still cocked at nothing, staring at me, then at the corpse, then back at me. I don't think I even hit him, he says. Big brother, are you actually that strong? Then the sky rings for the whole planet, and it isn't a return this time. Warning. Total Japanese contestants eliminated has exceeded 10, the first country to cross the line. National fate penalty activated. All Japanese citizens' physical health declines slightly. On the streets of Japan, commuters drop to their knees clutching pain that came out of nowhere. In hospitals, the alarms go off. And then the second chime, the one my whole country's been holding its breath for. As the primary contributor to the kills, the Dragon Kingdom's national fate reward triggers. All citizens gain +1 to Constitution, and back home, 1.4 billion people feel it at the same instant. From the border to the desert to the coast, the soldier whose bad knee stops aching, the sickly kid who goes rosy, the old woman whose blood pressure just drops, the tired office worker who feels a warm current chase the exhaustion out of his bones, and the ones who spent 2 weeks mocking us feel it too, and start typing the thing that will define the rest of this. Let me take it back. I'll never look down on our players again. I really know I was wrong. +1 to Constitution isn't a number to a billion people. It's the most real thing that's ever happened to them. The whole country roars at once for 4 exhausted people standing in a wrecked camp full of monkeys and corpses. It doesn't apply to us out here, a small footnote in the announcement, and Xu Hao reads it and laughs anyway, wild and proud, because we didn't do it for us. Mei Ling's fist unclenches. Zhang Shou cries the good kind of tears, and I stand in the middle of my strange little family and think, quietly, that this is only the beginning. We cut Chen Kai loose, a soft-handed office worker with a spine after all, and now the 5th of us strip the camp of everything useful and turn for home. The coward who ran is still out there somewhere. So is Brock's employer, an ocean away, watching his best hunter die on a screen and reaching for a phone. But tonight, the mocked college kid who anchored his nation's roster like a joke just handed 1.4 billion people a stronger body, and I let myself feel that for exactly as long as it takes to shoulder a bag of loot. Then we walk home. The walk home turns into a shopping trip. Xu Hao, still thinking about the drunk monkey, drags us on a detour to the grove, and we find the tree hollow they've been aging fruit in, a pool of thick amber monkey wine, fruit pits floating in it, smelling like a distillery. He fills 3 pots and 2 canteens, reverently, and seals the rest back up, for next time. A man who's rediscovered his reason to live. My country howls. Wilderness moonshine. God Li Wei's crew is living better in the apocalypse than most of us are at home. Then Chen Kai earns his keep by accident. Our new office worker has survived this whole game on nothing but luck, and he trips over a patch of dirt and digs up a wild sweet potato. And the sky rings for tens of thousands of acres of sweet potato fields across the country. A crop that's fed hundreds of millions of my people through famines in the actual history books. The man just about weeps into the soil. Turns out lucky is its own kind of superpower, and I'm starting to think I should keep him near me on purpose. And when we get back to the valley, there's a cow standing in our camp. A huge one, clawed up from a fight it barely won, and it's Patches' mother, come looking for the calf we saved. When it understands we're the ones who kept her baby alive, this animal that could flatten any of us lowers its enormous head and rubs its face against my arm and asks, in the only language it has, for help with its wounds. We patch her up. Xu Hao names her Luna, Mighty, and just like that, we've got a draft animal that could pull a house. That night, the camp is a ridiculous, wonderful thing. Sweet potatoes roasting in the ash. Monkey wine going around. The cow and her calf ruminating in the corner. An actress and an office worker and an ex-marine and a special forces captain all laughing at a fire. And me in the middle of it, realizing I've built the one thing this dead world doesn't have. A home. On purpose. The next days are the closest thing to peace I've had in 2 years, and I fill them with work, because peace is a resource you spend, not one you keep. Xu Hao and I hunt a 300-pound wild boar. I lure it into charging a tree. He spears its neck. I open its throat. And I find black truffles where it had been rooting, which Xu Hao, sniffing, declares smell like gasoline, right up until I sear them with the boar tenderloin and he changes his entire worldview mid-bite. We turn up wild strawberries. Ding, tens of thousands of patches nationwide. I build an ox cart, a forged iron axle. Wheels hooped with iron I shrink fit hot so they grip the wood like they grew there, and hitch Luna to it, and our hauling problem simply stops existing. And our valley stream, which we've now drunk from every day for a week, hits some hidden threshold and triggers on its own. 10,000 sources of living water spread across the country. Springs bubbling up in the heart of the desert, an alpine lake appearing in the mountains, self-renewing water in a world that died of thirst, worth more than all the gold I found combined. The trick, the country's cracked by now. Use a fixed resource for 7 days, and the odds go way up. Our home isn't just a fortress. It's a machine that prints miracles. Then it's check-in day, and the system hands me the skill that's about to save all our lives. Master-level weather perception. 48 hours of forecast read straight off the wind, the pressure, the birds, the shape of the clouds. In a place where the sky can go from sunny to killing hail in 90 seconds, that's not a convenience, that's survival itself. And I get to use it almost immediately, because Shu Hao and I spot a thread of smoke over the far ridge. An unknown smoke this close to home is a splinter you don't leave in. So we make a plan. Mei Ling and I take the ox cart and go find out who's living next door. Shu Hao holds the fort with the rest of the family. I don't know yet that the smoke belongs to 2 men doing something ugly, or that it'll end with a dying wolf and a decision. I just know the wind is telling me things, and one of them, faint under everything else, is a chill I don't like at all. The smoke belongs to 2 Swiss players, Nico, a brute, Sven, a schemer in glasses, and they're holding a woman prisoner, dragging her around a hot spring they've claimed. Mei Ling and I cut our stream, because what these 2 are doing isn't for broadcast, and we settle in to watch for the opening. Turns out the hostage makes her own. When the 2 men climb out of the water off guard, she smashes a rock into Sven's skull, and in the chaos, Mei Ling's arrow goes clean through Nico's throat. Sven grabs the woman as a shield and starts counting to 3, demanding we show ourselves and drop our weapons. Here's the thing he doesn't understand about us. I don't care about the hostage. She's a stranger from Belgium. Her life has nothing to do with me, and nothing to do with the Dragon Kingdom. Threatening me with her is like threatening a hungry wolf with a rock. I genuinely can't see the leverage. So I fire past her, close enough to cut a lock of her hair, and ask Sven what exactly he thinks he has to negotiate with. My country splits into a moral debate at home, and I ignore all of it. Sven, desperate, offers intelligence for his life. A cornfield and a salt lake to the northwest, ripe, guarded, and I take the trade, and I promise out loud that I, Li Wei, will not kill him, which is true. When Mei Ling's arrow goes through his heart a moment later, I point out to the corpse, reasonably, that I kept my word. I wasn't the one who did it. Switzerland's stream calls us devils. The booth expert calls it 100% correct. A man that dangerous, released, is a disaster. And the intel was unverifiable anyway. This isn't a dinner party. It's a war for a nation's fate. The woman, Greta, turns out to be a prime minister's daughter, which is exactly why Belgium quietly offers my country 2 copper mines for her rescue, an offer our old general refuses to turn into an order because he won't spend our players' lives on anyone's mine. She looks at me after, with gratitude and fear and something warmer, and offers, in broken Chinese, to come with us. She can cook. She can sew. She can, and she leaves the sentence hanging in a way that's not subtle, and I look at her, honestly baffled, and inform her that I'm a Sigma man, a term she does not understand and I do not explain. Mei Ling tells her flatly to go find her own country's players and not follow us. Belgium pays the copper mines anyway. We loot the Swiss camp, corn cobs, a flint, binoculars, and turn for home. And that would be the whole story. Except the wilderness has one more thing to give me tonight. A dying wolf drags itself out of the dark, belly torn open to the bone by something with claws. The same claw pattern I notice with a cold drop in my stomach that scarred up our cow Luna, which means there's a predator out here big enough to gut a giant wolf, and I haven't met it yet. Mei Ling raises her bow to end its suffering, and with its last strength, the wolf pushes a newborn cub out from under its body and dies. A pup, gray, blind, too young to even be afraid, nosing at a mother that's already cold. Mei Ling lowers the bow. Our ancestors made dogs out of wolves, she says. I raised military dogs in the army. I pick the cub up and it licks my rough finger, and I tuck it into my chest pocket with just its head sticking out, and just like that the family adds one more. Mei Ling names it something that translates roughly as the first spring thunder, a wish for good luck. I'll just call it Shadow. And on the leisurely ox cart ride home, scooping up firewood along the road like 2 farmers on market day, my weather sense finally stops being subtle about the chill it's been hinting at. A superstorm. A big one. Coming fast. Coming for the whole forest. I flick the reins and tell Mei Ling we go home now. Right now. And she doesn't ask a single question. Because this man never jokes. We run. We beat the storm home by hours. And I spend those hours turning the family into a work crew on the strength of a forecast nobody else can feel. The sky's dead clear. And I've got them burning charcoal, waterproofing the roof with mud and the clothes stripped off dead enemies, building a chimney, digging drainage. Shu Hao shoves a Japanese flag jacket into the mud and mutters that trash should shine in death since it was useless in life. They do it all on faith. And then the sky goes gray and cold on schedule, and Shu Hao stares at me like I'm a wizard. At midnight the world ends. Lightning. Wind like a wounded animal. rain in a solid gray wall, and inside our sealed, warm, dry shelter, we're eating roasted sweet potato and drinking monkey wine while the cub trembles in my lap. The broadcast cuts around the continent to the usual gallery of the soaked and the freezing and the dying, and lands, as it always does, on us, on vacation in the apocalypse. This isn't a mud hut, Shu Hao announces through a mouthful of sweet potato. This is home. And he's right, and I don't undercut it, because for one night in a killing world, it's true. Somewhere out in the desert, the storm catches a player I'll get to know later, Guo Xin, a scorpion-eating lone wolf with a tamed camel whose fire the rain drowns in one hiss, who wraps himself and the camel in a thermal blanket and endures. Because that's the only trick he's got. Remember him. He matters. Dawn after the storm, the flood coughs up a gift. The waterfall's tripled, the stream's a brown torrent, and something huge is wedged in an eddy. I dive in, rope its tail, and we haul out a 3-meter, eyeless, bone-plated fish. Armor harder than iron, teeth like thumbs, a species the booth expert can't find in any encyclopedia because it went extinct in the actual Paleozoic. It's stunned from being smashed down the falls, which is the only reason it's catchable, and I finish it with one swing of the forge hammer that shatters its supposedly indestructible skull. The system pings. 10,000 armored sturgeon into rivers and lakes nationwide, a brand new food source for a hungry country. And inside its belly, 3 pounds of top-grade black caviar, the kind that stopped existing on Earth. We feast, even the cow and the cub, on a fish older than the dinosaurs. But abundance was never the point, and I sit the family down and say it plain. Every 10 enemy players we kill, the whole nation gets +1 to Constitution. Mei Ling states the rule like the soldier she is. It's zero-sum. One side gains what the other loses, and bows are too slow for a fight where we're surrounded. So I build the thing Forging's been whispering about since day one, a repeating crossbow. The old Warring States design, a magazine of 10 short bolts, a mechanism that loads and fires with one pull of the lever. Iron trigger parts I forged to millimeter tolerance, a string woven from the alligator's back tendon, the toughest cord in the wilderness. When I test the first one, it puts 10 bolts into a log in 3 seconds without me even aiming, and Shu Hao, an ex-Marine who's handled real automatic weapons, can only manage 2 syllables of profanity. The point isn't power, I tell them. Each bolt's weaker than a bow. The point is that whoever fires first owns the fight, because even a miss makes the enemy dodge. And if I gold coat the tips, a scratch is a death sentence. We build 4 of them, 1 each, and about 120 bolts. And when we're done, Jiang Xu asks the quiet question that's been sitting in her all week. Can't we just stay here, farm, hunt, be safe? And I have to tell her no, and mean it. This is a war for a nation's fate, not a pastoral. There are too many wolves out here and not enough meat, and if we don't want to be the meat, then we go out and we hunt. The valley isn't a home to hide in, it's a base to launch from. The hunters are ready. The system decides we've all been comfortable long enough. A global announcement. The rainforest has too many survivors, so a purification process is starting. In 24 hours, a fog will blanket the whole region, duration unknown. And, it adds, there are unknown ruins out there tied to the nation's fate. Good luck. Translation. It's a forced reshuffle. The fog kills our defensive edge. Visibility down to a few meters turns our fortress into a blind cage. And the ruins are bait, a hope dangled to drive everyone out into the murk to kill each other. So I don't panic. I convert 24 hours into a bunker, every pot filled with clean water in case the fog poisons the stream. All the boar smoked into jerky, firewood stacked to the roof, the shelter sealed with clay and boar hide, and an airlock foyer built onto the door in case the fog's toxic. 4 crossbows, 120 bolts, a family that stopped being scared and started moving fast. And then, with the fog an hour out, my perception catches people, more than one, coming for us. It's a Cambodian shotgun crew, a vicious little killer named Kim Sang, and 2 others. And running point ahead of them, forced along at gunpoint, is the coward from Brock's camp, the traitor, the one who sold Chen Kai and ran into the dark the night of the raid. His name is Zhang Pengfei, and he steps right onto one of the barbed spike stakes I ring the approach with and screams the whole ambush wide open, and then he crawls toward us with his foot skewered, sobbing that he's Chinese, that lighthouse forced him, that he had no choice, please. My perception's already found the shotgun crew watching from the hill, so I know the whole thing's a trap, which means I can't go to him. And I can't leave him screaming and lighting up our position either, which leaves exactly one answer. 10 crossbow bolts in 2 seconds, and the traitor stops talking forever, and the debt I filed away the night of the raid is paid. On the hillside, Kim Sang watches me put down my own countryman without a flicker, and feels a chill go all the way up his spine. A man that ruthless to his own. What does he do to enemies? That fear is the first crack in him. We hunt the shotgun crew through the dark, and it's ugly and one-sided. My perception makes the pitch-black forest a lit map. Shu Hao, Panting to keep up, mutters that there are 2 monsters on this team and he's not one of them, and Kim Sang proves he's every bit the animal he looks. He pulls a bolt out of his own wounded man's chest and jams it into his throat to stop him being a burden. We wound the rest with a treetop crossbow ambush, and as Kim Sang bolts, something intercepts him first. A scarred, silent man throws a hand axe that takes Kim Sang's gun arm off at the elbow. Flying kicks him into a tree and beats his head against the trunk until he stops. He picks up the fallen shotgun and turns, and there's a moment where his killing aura is worse than the Cambodians combined, and Shu Hao grabs for the gun claiming spoils, and the scarred man grabs it too, and it looks like it's about to go very wrong. Until I put one hand on each of their wrists and squeeze, and both of these strong men go white and let go, because it feels like their bones are about to powder. The shotgun drops between them. The scarred man stares at me, and for the first time his flat killer's eyes show something like fear, because I'm supposed to be a 20-year-old and I just palmed him like a child. He's ours, it turns out. Gao Lei, a Dragon Kingdom lone wolf who tore off his own armband so foreign players would underestimate him before he killed them. A cold, efficient, damaged man who came all this way for one reason. He wanted to borrow my gun, because out in the barren cave country in the northwest, something took his teammate. They went deep into a cave hunting food. The torches went out in a rush of wind. There was one scream, and when the light came back, there was just a drag mark and a pool of blood and no man. He doesn't know what it was. Too fast. No roar. And when I hear it, the pieces click. The claws that gutted Luna and Shadow's mother. The thing big enough to erase a person in the dark. The ruins the system mentioned aren't puzzle rooms. They're lairs. And whatever's guarding them is a monster you can't kill with a knife. And, I tell my very quiet family, we've got one of those living right here too. I give the shotgun to Mei Ling, which settles who owns it, and I bring Gao Lei in out of the fog that's already sealing the valley shut, because a man this useful is worth more alive. And because, though I don't say it, the family that's about to be tested has room for one more blade. The white wall closes over the world, and somewhere in it, the thing that hunts giant wolves lifts its head. Inside the fog, our fortress disarms Gao Lei more than the wrist lock did. He walks in expecting a survival camp. He finds a blast furnace, a pottery rack, a cowshed, a family, a civilization in miniature, and a bowl of hot armored sturgeon soup pressed into his scarred hands by an actress who smiles at him like he isn't a killer. He drinks it all. Something in him that had been clenched for a long time lets go a little. And I tell them my theory, the one his cave monster confirmed. The ruins the system dangled are guarded by these things. And behind a guardian is either a reward that could change the war or a weapon that could win it. And we, I remind them, have a guardian of our own. The thing that gutted our cow, the thing out there in the white. It doesn't keep us waiting. First a tremor in the ground, then a beast tide. Every animal in the rainforest stampeding past our valley at once. Wolves and deer and boar running shoulder to shoulder. None of them hunting, all of them fleeing, mixed together by a fear bigger than the food chain. We turn Luna loose to run with them and fall back toward the cellar, and out of the white steps the thing they're all running from, a saber-toothed tiger the size of a small truck, black fur standing like steel needles, 2 curved fangs a foot long, and hanging from its jaws like a rag doll, the mangled body of the traitor Jiang Pengfei, because it turns out this predator has an appetite specifically for human dead. A full volley from all of us, shotgun and pistol and 3 crossbows, barely marks it. Only the shotgun's fire and steel makes it flinch, because the one thing it fears, bone deep like every animal, is flame. I lure it off solo with the gun, roll clear as a claw the size of a millstone shatters my blast furnace, and put a 3rd shot into one of its eyes before it retreats into the fog, dragging its corpse. And then it comes back angrier, and takes its revenge on the only thing it can reach, our home. It razes the shelter to splinters, the cellar shaking over our heads while we hold our breath in the dark, tearing apart the first place any of us built with our own hands. Jiang Shu covers her ears. Chen Kai holds the trembling calf. And I tell them quietly that it's good it holds a grudge, because a grudge is a leash, and a leash means we can pull it exactly where we want it. We climb out into the ruins of our home, and nobody cries, and nobody complains. The rage that comes up off my family is the best building material I've ever had, so I build a killing ground. Fire is its weakness, so we ring the ruins with bonfires, and we render every scrap of animal fat and fish we've got down into pot after pot of oil. And Jiang Shu and Chen Kai dig clay and throw pottery jars as fast as their hands will move. 14 of them, filled with grease, primitive fire bombs. Gao Lei reveals the second piece of the puzzle while he works. Horse. The thing that took his teammate wasn't this. Longer, thinner, no hair, more like a giant skinned lizard, which means the wilderness has at least 2 of these guardians, at least 2 ruins, at least 2 rewards worth dying for. But that's tomorrow's war. Tonight's is the tiger. The trap is simple and vicious. Between two big trees, I dig a shallow bait pit and bury the Cambodian's corpses in it because the tiger wants human dead more than it wants anything, more than it wants living prey. I watched it choose a corpse over an easier kill. Above the pit, 10 meters up, we string a net holding all 14 oil jars, rigged to drop. The family goes up into the trees to wait, and Jiang Shu and Chen Kai take the cellar with the calf and the cub and the seeds. The future, I tell her, and holding it is the biggest job there is. And then we sit in the fog and the cold with our fingers on the release. And we wait for a nightmare to come collect its dead. The fog's so thick it won't carry the scent, so the tiger doesn't come, so I do the one thing left. I climb down and become the bait myself. I walk into the open, pick up a busted iron pot, and bang it with a rock like the loudest, angriest blacksmith in history, ringing the dinner bell for a monster, while my whole country screams at me through a stream I can't see to stop, to run, that this is suicide. And it works. The ground starts to shake. It comes out of the white with its blinded eye, a healed scar already. The thing regenerates, which means every hour I wait it gets stronger, which means it has to be tonight. And I run, and it chases, and Mei Ling's pistol stalls it just long enough for me to swing up the vine into the tree. It rears to climb after me, claws in the bark, and then the buried corpses hit its nose, and the evolution hunger wins over the two annoying things in the tree, and it drops back down and goes to the pit to eat its dead. It circles, it sniffs, it checks for danger, and finding none, it lowers that enormous head and bites down on a body to drag it away. And now, the ropes get cut. 14 jars of oil come down out of the dark and shatter across its head and back, and the net drops over it and tangles it, and the more it thrashes, the more evenly the grease coats it, head to tail, nothing spared. Then the fire arrows, tips lit off a flint, thunk into the greasy back, and the shotgun and the pistol roar at once, and the sparks find the oil. A fireball erupts in the fog with a heat wave that boils a clearing out of the white and scorches the leaves around us yellow. And the apex predator of the whole rainforest becomes, in 1 second, an enormous torch. It rolls, it charges, it snaps a tree meant for two men to hug and tears through the brush as a screaming ball of flame, and there's nothing in it now but the pain of being burned alive. And the whole planet watches in silence. Because this isn't a movie, it's a living thing dying in front of them. It slams into a rock wall one last time and slides down and stops, still burning, and the fog around us thins as the heat eats it. And it's the first time since I got here that even Mei Ling laughs out loud, wiping ash off her face, grinning like a person. Then the sky rings for all 7 billion of us, and it's the biggest bell yet. We've hunted a purification beast, a ruin guardian. Reward 1. Every citizen of the Dragon Kingdom gains +1 physique and +1 spirit. And back home, the second one lands like nothing ever has. Because spirit isn't muscle, it's the mind. A designer in Shanghai jolts awake with a week-old problem suddenly solved in front of him. Students find the formulas they couldn't hold suddenly simple. Researchers installed labs get a collective flash of the answer at the same instant. And in a hospital, an old woman with years of Alzheimer's grabs her child's hand and smiles and knows them, and her child cries so hard they can't type it. A whole nation, 1.4 billion minds, made sharper at once. Reward 2. 7 days where our returns pay out 1,000-fold. Boosted. Reward 3. Delivered as pure spectacle. A whole food chain installed across the country. Grass springing up bald hills into green pasture. Plump goats appearing to graze it. Wolves appearing to hunt the goats. A golden eagle with a 3-meter wingspan dropping out of the sky to take a wolf. A self-running, self-feeding ecosystem gifted to a starving people. More pasture than 3 provinces, and it asks nothing of them but to let it live. And on top of it all, my country's old general does something that's never been done. He grants me leeway, full authority to make any decision on the spot in the field, and the nation will bear the consequences. Every punch I throw is now the will of 1.4 billion people. I'm a nation, standing in a burnt clearing, holding a crossbow. The fog lifts, but only here, only around the kill, because killing this guardian cleared its fog and nothing else. Which tells me there are more of them out there, under more fog, more ruins, more rewards, more monsters. The tiger's meat is sour and rotten, useless to us. But Shadow, the cub, tears into it like it's the finest thing it's ever tasted, and overnight it grows, the gray baby fluff going metallic and smooth, the limbs thickening, the eyes sharpening, because the flesh of a purification beast is evolution itself to another creature of this wilderness. I watch our pup start turning into something that isn't a pup, and I keep the fangs and bones for tools. And I look at the ruined home and the exhausted, grinning family and the nation I apparently now am, and I let myself feel all of it for exactly 1 breath. Then I pick up a shovel. We rebuild before dark. We've got a war to prep for, and I finally know the shape of it. Find the guardians, kill the guardians, and give my people a world back, one impossible reward at a time. By morning, Shadow isn't little anymore. The cub that fit in my palm a week ago is the size of a proper dog now, and the fur has gone from gray baby fluff to something with a metallic sheen to it, like brushed steel. The claws don't retract all the way. The eyes track things across the clearing that I can't even see. He eats a strip of guardian meat off my knife, and I swear he gets heavier in my hand while he does it. Jiang Shu wants to know if he's still safe around Patches the calf. I watch him walk up to the calf, sniff it once, and flop down against its legs to sleep. Safe. He's decided the calf is family, and this wolf's definition of family is apparently non-negotiable, which is going to be very bad news for anyone who isn't. Then the sky does its little morning chime just for me. Day N sign in. Master level herbalism. And the forest rearranges itself behind my eyes. That vine isn't a vine, it's a fever breaker. That pretty red berry is a heart stopper. That weed I've been trampling for 2 weeks seals wounds if you crush it into a paste. The whole murderous jungle is a pharmacy, and somebody just handed me the index. Every plant now comes with a little tag on it. Heals this, kills that, don't touch, brew for 3 hours. I've got a first aid kit the size of a continent and a poison cabinet to match. Mei Ling's fevers, Chen Kai's cuts, the strychnine that's about to start mattering a lot. I can answer all of it now with a walk and a good eye. I don't tell the stream. Some inventory you keep in your own pocket. Then the weekly command message lands, and it changes the shape of the war. It's official now from the top. I have full authority to make any call on the spot, in the field, and every dragon player is under my command. Which is flattering right up until the next line, because the next line is a man asking to be saved. East Desert. A compatriot named Tang Bo, whole squad wrecked by something the message calls a giant python, and I call a second ruin guardian. They're pinned, half of them down, waiting for a rescue with my name on it. And I pull out Gao Lei's airdrop map and measure it with my thumb, and my stomach drops. The desert is a month away. More. There is no version of me getting there in time. So I make the first genuinely cold decision of this whole thing. I don't go. I send the order to the players who are near it, trust strangers to reach a stranger, and I turn my own team toward the cornfield instead, the food we can actually take. Command isn't the part where you save everyone, it's the part where you pick who you can't, out loud, with the whole country watching, and keep walking. I keep walking, but I write the name down, Tang Bo. I write it down so that if he lives, I can tell him I knew, and if he doesn't, I can carry it properly. Somebody does answer the call, though, and it's the exact right kind of lunatic. Go Shin. Desert lone wolf, been surviving out there on scorpions and spite, tamed himself a camel like it's a totally normal thing to do, and the second the message hits, he points the camel south and rides toward the python that ate a squad, one man, toward a ruin guardian, because a compatriot asked. I have never met him, and I already know I'd take a bullet for him. Meanwhile, Shu Hao bags a fat white-bellied pheasant, thumps his chest, and the sky pays him 10 million of them nationwide, an entire country's poultry industry conjured because one Marine wanted a drumstick. And Gao Lei and I forage the slopes, and I hit a patch of black lingji, the good stuff the mushroom emperors used to hoard, and it multiplies by 1,000 into a national supply of brain tonic that gets reserved for the scientists who most need their heads sharp. A picky woman back home turns her nose up at her snake meat ration on the national feed, and before I can even react, her own neighbors are threatening to ship her to the western mines, and she recants so fast she nearly swallows her tongue. Nobody insults the food, not while people are earning it out here with their lives. And then the cow comes home. Luna. My cow, who I was sure the fog ate, comes trotting out of the tree line very much alive, and she is furiously chasing 2 terrified strangers. Shu Hao's already got a spear cocked because the strangers are foreign players and this is a war, and I get one hand up in time because the strangers aren't attacking, they're running from my cow. They're Belgian, Max, who won't shut up about history, and Wei Chun, who turns out to be a cook. And here's the twist that makes me lower the spear. Luna wasn't fleeing them, and she wasn't fighting them either. She was guarding. There's an unconscious dragon compatriot on the ground behind her, half dead from thirst, and these 2 Belgians are the ones who found him and dripped water into his mouth. My cow saw 2 people leaning over her downed countrymen and made a decision, and the decision was to herd them like sheep until the grown-ups arrived. We didn't chase the cow, Max keeps insisting, arms up. The cow chased US. And it turns out Belgium put out a national order. Every Belgian player is to help every dragon player on site. A whole country paying back one debt because we pulled their prime minister's daughter out of a Swiss cage a month ago. Wei Chun the cook takes one bite of the roast pheasant we hand him, this scared, exhausted man, and just starts crying because it tastes like a home he's not sure he'll see again. Max, meanwhile, world historian, brave enough to camp next to a war, is absolutely petrified of Patches the calf, who is the single most harmless animal on the planet and keeps trying to lick him. I let him suffer. It's the most fun I've had all week. The compatriot the Belgians saved wakes up by the fire and turns out to be Xiao Jun, a surveyor, which is the most useful profession a man can have out here short of doctor or wizard. His squad got scattered days ago by an Indian group, 7 or 8 strong, and he's been running on empty ever since. Max and Wei Chun, before they head off to go find Greta and rejoin their own people, pay their debt in the only currency that matters now, intel. There's an Italian group holed up in a big cave to the west, and the word cave makes my neck prickle now, because the last cave had a ruined guardian in it. There's wild peanuts to the north, and there's wild tea growing in a valley they'll draw me a map to, cash crops and a possible third guardian, handed over by 2 men I nearly speared an hour ago. I thank them properly. Then they walk off to save their own, and I like this world a little more than I did yesterday. We're going to the cornfield. That's the call. A sea of grain worth a national return, sitting in contested territory, and we're going to go take it. But somebody has to stay and hold the base and mind Xiaojun while he heals, and Gao Lei volunteers before I can ask. Gao Lei. The man the stream nicknamed the God of War, the shotgun killer with the 1,000-yard stare, and Jiang Shu, without a flicker of fear, walks up to this human weapon and hands him a list of instructions for feeding Patches the calf. How warm the milk, how often, which blanket. He takes it, he reads it. The God of War nods seriously at the calf care instructions, and I have to turn around so nobody sees my face. Then we move out. Me, Mei Ling, Xu Hao, Jiang Shu, Chen Kai, Luna hauling the packs, and Shadow ranging out front. Dog size now, and getting bigger. Our early warning system with teeth. Shadow earns his keep before we've gone a mile. He drags me off the trail to a stand of tall jointed stalks, and Master Herbalism tags them instantly. Sugarcane. A whole wild grove of it. I cut one, chew it, and its pure sweetness, and then the sky multiplies it by 10,000 across the whole country, and the experts back home lose their minds because sugarcane isn't candy to them. It's sugar and molasses, yes, but it's also rum, and more importantly, it's ethanol, which is fuel, which is a country that stops needing to beg anyone for oil. National energy independence, sprouting out of a wild grove because my wolf has a sweet tooth. And Xu Hao, chewing a stalk, connects the dots out loud with the enthusiasm of a man who has found his calling. Sulfur, saltpeter, charcoal, and now sugar. Boss, he says, grinning around the cane, that's a recipe for a very great Boris. He means gunpowder. He has started calling gunpowder a great Boris. I don't correct him. Some things are perfect and you leave them alone. Then the sky goes wrong, and I feel it before I see it. Weather perception. The little disaster radar in the back of my skull screams windstorm, and I get everyone into a ravine maybe 90 seconds before the forest tries to kill us. This isn't wind. This is the sky deciding the trees are done. Full-grown trunks snap like breadsticks and cartwheel through the air like javelins thrown by a god with a grudge, and one of them scythes down right where Xu Hao was standing and would have cut him clean in half if I hadn't already yanked him into the rock. We ride it out jammed in the ravine around a stubborn little fire, listening to the world come apart overhead, warm and terrified and together. And when it eases, a black bear comes limping past our shelter, hurt, favoring a leg, clearly running from something worse than us. And Xu Hao, my beautiful idiot, immediately whispers, "Braised bear paw," and I have to grab his arm, not because I'm soft, because we are currently sitting inside an active return window, and if I kill that bear, the sky will thank me by spawning 10 million black bears across China. 10 million. In the cities. It would be a national catastrophe, delivered gift-wrapped, all because a Marine wanted a snack. Xu Hao goes pale as it sinks in. "Boss," he says quietly, watching the bear limp away into the dark. "I almost became a traitor to the whole country over a drumstick. Great power, great responsibility. Also, apparently, great restraint at the dinner table. The returns keep rolling in from other players while we walk. Somebody lands a bluefin tuna and it multiplies into a national fishery. Somebody else tames a falcon. And then Japan's guy finds a wild patch of cannabis and it multiplies by 10,000 into an ocean of the stuff blanketing Japan. And I actually laugh, because watching the global feed react to that is its own comedy. Then it stops being funny, because Lighthouse Country immediately offers Japan food and minerals to buy the entire crop, framed, straight-faced as respect for cultural differences. It's not respect, it's a weapon. They want to flood a rival with something that dulls the will to fight, and pay for the privilege, and call it diplomacy. A war you win by making the other side too comfortable to stand up. I file that away. That's the kind of enemy I'm actually up against. The kind that attacks with generosity. And we come over a rise, and there it is. The paradise the Belgians described. Mountains on 3 sides, one narrow throat of an exit, a bright stream full of fish, everything green and heavy and alive. It's perfect. It's a fortress with a pantry, and that's exactly why my stomach drops. Because down by the water there's a deer carcass, torn apart, and on the wind there's the faintest thread of wood smoke and spice. Someone cooks with spice. Someone is already here, and I have a very good guess who. Chen Kai finds the tea first, a whole slope of wild tea trees, and his times 1,000 returned blankets a national supply of it. Our lucky man doing lucky man things. But I'm not looking at the return. I'm looking at the tea bushes because the tender top buds have already been stripped, recently, by hands. This paradise isn't unclaimed, it's occupied, and I already know by who, the Indian squad that scattered Xiaojun, 7 men, a captain named Rohan Sharma, and the detail that turns my mouth dry. They tip their arrows in strychnine, not a poison that hurts. A poison that kills. A graze, a scratch, one broken bit of skin, and you're gone in 3 minutes, foaming. Suddenly, every branch in this pretty green valley is a place a man could be standing with a bow. So we don't wait to be found. We set up and we let them come to us, and that night they do. 7 shapes moving through the dark toward our fire, quiet, confident, the ambushers about to be ambushed. And Shadow wakes us without a sound. Just a low pressure of a growl against my hand. The evolved senses in that steel-colored head mapping 7 heartbeats I can't hear. We're already awake when they arrive. We're already aimed. The repeating crossbows open up out of the black in a crossfire, and 3 of them fold before they even understand the fire was a decoy and the real Chinese are in the trees. Rohan Sharma is fast though. Rohan Sharma is very fast. He tracks my movement by sound alone and looses a strychnine arrow at exactly where a man my size should be. And I'm not there, because I predicted the shot he predicted. Duck the arrow he aimed at my duck. It hisses past my ear close enough to feel. And then the man does something that tells me everything about him. He shoves his own 3 remaining soldiers forward as decoys, as meat, and uses the half-second of their dying to break and run. But he doesn't know about the wolf. Shadow's nose peels the 3 decoys out of the dark like he's pointing at them, and that's when it happens, the thing I've been waiting weeks for. Chen Kai, the office worker who flinched at everything, sights down his crossbow at a man trying to kill him and takes the shot and makes it. His first. And Zhang Xu, the actress who a month ago couldn't watch a fish be gutted, drops the last decoy clean. No hesitation, no scream. Their first kills. Not panicked flailing, aimed, decided, done. My soft people aren't soft anymore. And Mei Ling, reloading beside them, delivers the highest praise she is structurally capable of, which is to glance at the 2 bodies and say, flat as a table, acceptable grouping. Zhang Xu beams like she got an Oscar. From Mei Ling, acceptable is basically a marriage proposal. Meanwhile, Xu Hao, in the middle of a firefight, is carefully poking a hole in a wild pigeon egg before he sets it near the coals so it won't burst. Because we may be at war, but we are not going to waste a good egg, and a man has priorities. That leaves Rohan Sharma running for his life through the dark, and the wolf goes after him. He hears something on his heels and spins and fires a strychnine arrow point blank at what he thinks is a stray dog, and the dog isn't there anymore. It dodged. An animal dodged a bow at 5 feet, which his brain simply cannot file, and in the half-second he spends not understanding it, the thing is on him. He punches it. He punches it as hard as a grown man can punch, straight down onto that steel-colored skull, and it does nothing, because there's guardian flesh in this wolf now, and its head is basically an anvil with opinions. It clamps his bow wrist and holds patient, pinning him for delivery, and that's how I find him. A killer of my countrymen, held down by my dog, waiting for me. I finish it clean. Then Xu Hao has a firm word with the last man about where the scattered members of Xiaojun's squad ended up, and we get our answers, and the whole Indian threat in this valley is simply over. Back at the global meeting, the dragon spokesman doesn't even gloat much, just tells the Indian delegation, mild as milk, to stop barking like a beaten dog, and to either win fair or admit they'd rather wage war on the entire planet than lose to us honestly. The paradise is ours, and it cost us nothing but a night's sleep, because my people grew up. We split up in the morning, and I hate splitting up, but the map demands it. Mei Ling and Chen Kai peel east to go find Xiaojun's scattered cluster before something else does. Xu Hao, Zhang Shou and I push onto the cornfield and the salt pond, where a lighthouse squad is squatting on the biggest food source in the region, and while we're dividing up like that, the sky delivers the news from the desert, and it takes the wind out of the whole world at once. Guo Xin's squad reached the giant python. Guo Xin's squad killed the giant python. The second Ruin Guardian is dead, and as the reward, the sky restores 10% of the Dragon Kingdom's land to the way it was in 1980. Blue sky pouring back over gray cities, black poisoned rivers running clear inside an hour, dead fisheries suddenly boiling with fish, a tenth of a country healed in a single breath, and then the cost scrolls up underneath the miracle, and the cheering back home just stops. 5 of the 7 are dead. Guo Xin, the lunatic on the camel who rode toward a monster because a stranger asked, is alive, but he's lost an arm. Tang Bo, the man I couldn't reach, is alive, barely, wrecked. 2 crippled survivors standing in a desert full of their own dead, and because of them, a tenth of the homeland can breathe again. I stand very still and let it land all the way down. That's the actual war. Not my clever traps, not the face slaps the stream loves. That. Men riding at guardians and not all of them coming back. I make Guo Xin a promise he can't hear. I'll finish it. Every guardian, everyone, until the bill they just paid means something. And on the other side of the planet, the lighthouse president watches the same feed and draws the opposite lesson. He starts drawing up orders to threaten his own players' families to force them into the guardian fights at gunpoint. We send our heroes. He sends his hostages. Same war. And you can tell everything about a country by which one it chooses. Shadow saves us from something small and stupid before it can kill us. He plants himself across the trail and won't move, hackles up, staring at a hollow tree. And I've learned by now that when the wolf says no, the answer is no. It's a hive, a giant one, the kind of wild bees whose sting shuts down a grown man's lungs, hanging fat and humming in the dark of the trunk. One clumsy step and we'd have walked into a cloud of them with nowhere to run. We back away very, very slowly and go the long way around, and I give the wolf the last of the pigeon egg because a good scout eats first. Back at base, meanwhile, the god of war has gone completely domestic. The stream catches Gao Lei asleep, sitting up with Patches the calf tucked against him, and Xiao Jun healing in the corner, and the man who cleared a camp with a shotgun looks for once like someone with something left to lose. Good. That's the thread that keeps a person human out here. I've got mine. He's found his in a calf. But the desert doesn't let us have the warm moment for long because the feed cuts to Guo Xin and the whole country goes quiet to watch a man do the hardest thing I've ever seen. His arm is broken bad. There's no doctor, no splint, nothing but a rock and a rag, so he puts the arm against the rock, bites down on the rag, and sets the bone himself, and he does not scream. He makes no sound at all. Then he stands up and he buries his dead. 5 graves, dug one-handed in desert grit, for the 5 who didn't make it out from under the Guardian. And Tang Bo, wrecked, barely upright, goes to each of the 5 bodies first and peels the national armband off each arm and folds them and puts all 5 inside his shirt against his chest. Because someone has to carry them home. Someone has to look 5 families in the eye and hand them the armband and be able to say a name. 2 crippled men, alone in a desert, standing over 5 fresh graves under a sky that 1/10 of the country can suddenly see clearly because of what happened here. And one of them asks, quiet, what now? And Guo Xin looks at the graves and looks at the horizon and says the only thing left to say. Now we survive. I don't crack a joke over this one. You don't. There are exactly a few moments out here where the mask comes all the way off, and this is one, and I just watch it with the rest of my country and let it hurt, because a hurt like this is the only headstone those 5 are going to get. Then it's back to the work, because the work is the only way to make the graves mean anything, and the work right now is a cornfield the size of a small sea. We reach it and it's staggering, endless gold, rustling, a national grain return standing right there for the taking, except it's taken. There's a fortress dug in at the edge of it. A lighthouse squad, maybe 14 bodies, most of them not even American. They've enslaved players from smaller, weaker nations and put them to work, kept a few more as hostages for leverage. Soft, cruel men who stopped fighting for their food and started taking it from people too weak to say no. They've cleared a 50-meter death zone around their walls, built a watchtower, and stacked javelins by the 100, and from that tower a lookout spots Xu Hao and Jiang Shu out in the rows quietly harvesting, and the boss, David, sends 3 men out to go kill my 2. He should have sent more. I'm already in the corn. I hear them coming through the stalks, splitting up to flank, and I go to work in the green half-light where their numbers mean nothing, and my crossbow means everything. The first one drops before he knows I exist. The second turns at the sound and takes a bolt. The third, Ryan, actually gets a hand on his weapon, and I don't have time to reload, so I step inside his swing and hit him once, 1 punch, and the arm just breaks under my fist, snapped wrong at an angle, arms don't go. He's staring at me with the specific horror of a man recalculating everything. What are you? He gets out. A man or a ghost? And I don't answer, because the answer is complicated and he's not going to live long enough to appreciate it. 3 men sent to murder my friends, 3 men who don't walk out of the corn, and me without a scratch. We fade back into the gold with our harvest before the tower even understands what's happened. And David comes out later to find 3 bodies and exactly 1 set of footprints coming and going, and the stream says, you can watch the moment the arrogance curdles into fear on his face. He swears to the sky he'll turn this cornfield into my grave. People keep promising me that. I've got a whole collection of graves I was supposed to end up in. I'm standing in a field of my enemy's food, so I think we know how the collecting is going. We run with as much corn as we can carry, and on the move, I make everyone stop and boil the sugarcane down. Sounds insane, pausing a retreat to make candy, but heavy raw cane is a burden, and boiled down sugar is light, dense, keeps forever, and I called last night that we'd need water and a fire tonight, so here we are, turning a liability into rations while the enemy licks his wounds. Xu Hao eyes the bubbling syrup and cannot help himself. Boss, if I just gnawed on a stalk right now, would the country get back 10 million people with no teeth? Probably, buddy. Probably. Don't test it. We pack the sugar, we shoulder the corn, and we start planning how to take a fortress from a man who just swore to bury us in it. Here's the thing about a fortress with a 50-meter death zone and high tight walls. It's designed to keep me out, and every feature that keeps me out also keeps things in, like air. So I don't attack the walls. I go up the slope, find the wolfsbane and the aconite that master herbalism lights up for me like neon, and I build a fire downwind of their front gate, a low, wet, smoldering fire packed with the poison plants aimed like a hose. The wind does the rest. The smoke pours across their beautiful clear death zone, over their beautiful high walls, and pools inside the beautiful tight compound they built to be airtight, and it has nowhere to go, and neither do they. I don't watch. I don't need to. The stream watches the gate not open, and after a while the country understands what quiet means. 7 more of them, on top of the 3 in the corn. 10. And then, the sky totals it up and does the thing that makes this a war and not a brawl. Every citizen of Lighthouse Country loses a point of physique, and every citizen of the Dragon Kingdom gains one. A whole nation made weaker, a whole nation made stronger because of one fire on a hillside. No siege engines, no charge. A dull knife, drawn slow. And back in a lighthouse command center, a general named Miller watches his own people's strength tick down on a screen and grabs his chest and goes down, and the last thing he gets out before the medics swarm him is an order and a prayer in one breath. Form an alliance, all of them, everyone, and destroy China. There it is. The coalition, born on the floor of a command center out of a heart attack and a grudge. I made an enemy of the whole world today by killing 10 men with a campfire. I can live with that. While I'm gassing a fortress, Mei Ling is being Mei Ling 2 valleys over. She and Chen Kai trace Xiaojun's scattered people to a cave and find 2 of them alive. Han Ming, a carpenter, with an arm that a strychnine arrow grazed days ago and has been rotting ever since, and Liu Ji, a woman who kept him breathing by pressing a fire-heated stone to the wound to burn the poison's path and slow it. It's the kind of thing you only think to do if you refuse to let someone die on your watch. She's fierce, half-starved, and still puts herself between the strangers and the wounded man out of pure reflex until she sees the armbands. Then a wolf pack, real wolves, the ordinary kind, drawn by the smell of the rot, comes for all of them at once, and Mei Ling clears 5 of them in about 10 seconds. Crossbow, and then she's inside the distance and it's the dagger, and it's over so fast that Chen Kai is still raising his weapon when she's already wiping the blade. Then she does the harder thing. She cuts the rotten flesh out of Han Ming's arm with a hot blade, no anesthetic. Liu Ji holding him and Chen Kai holding the light, and she tells them plainly it only buys time. The actual cure is a specific herb, and she's going to go find it before the clock runs out. Chen Kai, the man who a month ago fainted at the sight of a fish, loads for her and covers her and doesn't look away once. My lucky office worker grew up too. Back at the corn, Xu Hao and Jiang Shu finish stripping enough of the field to trip the return, and the sky multiplies it by 10,000 into millions of acres of cornfields unrolling across the homeland. And corn isn't just bread, corn is feed. Feed is livestock. Livestock is meat, which means a starving country just got a whole protein economy out of a field we're stealing from, under a slaver's nose. That's the good news. Then I get practical about the 4 lighthouse men still barricaded and starving inside their gassed fortress, because starving men come out at night. So I build them a door to come out of. A link trapline along their patrol path, a stone-toothed club rigged to swing out of the dark at head height, and, because a trained man will duck a swing at his head, a pit lined with angled shale right where his feet go when he ducks. Predict the dodge, put the blades where the dodge lands. That night, hunger does exactly what hunger does, and David sends men out for our corn, and the dark takes 2 of them. Tom, who meets the club and does not duck fast enough, and Kevin, who ducks perfectly into the shale and won't be walking again. And then, from somewhere out in the black corn, a long, low howl, and the survivors run back to their walls, and I let them lie awake in there and listen to my wolf breathe. Because the wolf has picked his target. Shadow has grown past dog size now, all steel and silence, and when David himself finally slips into the corn for food, the wolf goes hunting, not the way an animal hunts, the way a killer hunts. David isn't stupid. The second he realizes the thing is on him, he grabs his own man, Steve, and shoulder checks him down into the wolf's path, a body to buy a second, the exact move Rohan Sharma tried, and the wolf steps over Steve. Doesn't even slow, because there's guardian flesh in his skull and something behind his eyes now that knows the difference between the man who threw the meat, and it wants the man. David turns to run, and there's nowhere to run to, and for the first time, the great slaver of the cornfield has to stop being a boss and turn and fight for his own life against a wolf that has decided, personally, that his life is over. Out here, it turns out, the food chain has opinions about character. The wolf doesn't kill David. The wolf plays with him, herds him, wears him down, and delivers him to me exhausted and wild-eyed, and I finish the delivery with a knee and an axe kick that folds a couple of his ribs and takes the fight out of him. And then I don't touch him again, because I don't have to. I just kneel down next to him, calm and friendly, and tell him, with master herbalism-flavored confidence, exactly which rib punctured which part of him, and precisely what I'm going to do about it with my knife if he doesn't feel talkative. I have no intention of doing any of it, but he doesn't know that, and a scared man's imagination is a better interrogator than I'll ever be, so he talks. He draws me a map, a cave to the northwest, a pile of Italian corpses at the mouth of it, and something alive in the dark inside, a third ruin guardian. And he gives me the real prize, the plan behind the plan. Lighthouse is building a wilderness league, roping in the smaller nations, and they intend to use those small nations as human shields, bait to throw at the ruin guardians so their own people don't have to bleed. And then, once the guardians are cleared and the rewards are banked, kill every Chinese player on the map. That's the whole strategy. Cowardice with a flowchart. David and the last of his men do not leave that fortress, and the tally for this cornfield settles at 10. And I sit with the map and the plan, and I understand that the little battles are over, and the actual war just showed me its face. The stream is still buzzing about the fortress when the sky twists the knife with a different feed, the grasslands, where a lighthouse cowboy squad is holding 3 dragon players as prisoners. Not to ransom, not to trade, to throw at a grassland ruin as expendable scouts, to trip the traps so the cowboys don't have to. One of ours, a big stubborn man named Kai Yong, is on his knees with his hands bound and his face wrecked, and when a captor leans in to gloat, he spits in the man's face, defiant to the last inch. Our old general goes on the global channel and formally demands their release, and the lighthouse general takes a slow sip of coffee on camera and refuses, and he doesn't even bother to lie about it. They're not prisoners, he says, pleasant as anything. They're tools, expendable ones. An open conspiracy, announced with a coffee cup, daring anyone to do something about it, and 1.4 billion people watch their countrymen called tools on live television, and something goes cold and hard across an entire nation at once. That one's not paid tonight. That one goes in the vow column, right under the traitor's name, but it goes in heavy. At the captured fortress, we find 2 more prisoners the slavers left behind, 2 Egyptian women who'd been taken and put to labor, terrified, and when we cut them loose, they do the thing that breaks my heart a little. They offer themselves to serve. Because that's the only safety the last month has taught them exists, attaching yourself to whoever's strongest. And I say no, not cruelly, just flatly. I'm not going to hurt them, and I'm not going to keep them. This is a war, not a charity, and not a harem. And I don't collect people. I give them clothes, a sack of corn, and a spear, point them east towards safer ground, and send them on their way as free people who owe me nothing. Zhang Shu, fierce about it, cuts off their "we can be useful to you" before they can finish, tells them to stop pricing themselves like goods, to go be people. I do cut the live stream for that part, which of course sets the global chat on fire, guessing what scandalous thing God Li Wei must be doing off camera, when the answer is, quietly declining to be a monster. Then we run our flag up over the place. Walls, watchtower, a cleared field, a stream. The slavers' fortress is ours now, the best base we've ever had, taken fully furnished. Xu Hao plants his feet on the wall, looks out over the corn, and bellows it so the whole stream can hear. From today, this place belongs to the dragon family, and the family's about to get bigger and better armed because the fortress is full of loot. Thick coils of good hemp rope, pots, blankets, weapons, which Xu Hao gathers up and starts lovingly resharpening like a man reunited with his children. And soap. Actual soap, at which Zhang Shu makes a sound I have never heard a human make over hygiene, and immediately claims half a bar as her personal treasure. I lay out the plan while they loot. I'm going to go back alone and gather everyone. Gao Lei, Xiao Jun, Mei Ling, Han Ming, Liu Jai, all our scattered squads. Pull the whole family into one fist. Trip the hot spring return on the way for 1,000-fold of clean hot water, and then we build. Real building. Saltpeter, sulfur, charcoal, and now sugar, gunpowder at scale. Because we're not going to keep stumbling into ruined guardians and improvising fire traps. We're going to go find them on purpose, armed, on our terms. This stopped being an adventure, I tell them. It's a hunt now. But all of that depends on one clock I don't control, 2 valleys away, where Mei Ling is running flat out through the wilderness trying to find a single specific herb before the strychnine finishes what it started in Han Ming's arm. The whole future waits on whether one woman can outrun a poison, and I can't help her. I can only trust her, which, with Mei Ling, is the easiest thing I do all day. I couldn't watch what happened next, and that's the part that still eats at me. I was already running, solo, cross-country, burning to gather everyone back into one fist, so I had my own stream cut and my own eyes on the trees. But the whole country watched Mei Ling's feed. And what they saw was the bravest thing any of us did out there, and not one of them could do a thing about it either. She found the herb, Aristolochia, the one antidote to the strychnine rotting Han Ming's arm, exactly where the plant knowledge said it'd be. She wrapped it, turned for the cave, and a black panther came out of the dark for her, not an elite monster, just nature's own apex assassin, all speed and silence, and it had been stalking her the whole time she was too spent to feel it. First swipe opened 3 lines across her back, and now she's in the worst fight of her life, already running on empty, against a thing built to end exactly the kind of prey she is right now. It goes badly. It goes about as badly as it can. She marks the thing, a slash to its leg, but it only makes it meaner, and then it stops charging like an animal and starts hunting like a genius, low and angled, hitting from directions that shouldn't exist. It slams her off her feet. It puts her into a tree hard enough to empty her lungs, and her dagger spins away into the mud 6 feet gone, and she's down, and it's coming, and the whole country is watching their goddess about to not get up. The chat just stops. 100 million people holding one breath, and she wins anyway. Flat on her back, no weapon, death already in the air, she grabs a hanging vine with her last working hand, and instead of trying to stand, she swings, low and sideways under the pounce, so the claws carve the dirt where her skull was. The beast overshoots, and Mei Ling lets the vine whip her body out over the one thing in the clearing that matters, the dagger standing in the mud, and drops, straight down. Onto the hilt, both hands, all her weight. The blade found its mark, and the panther that had her dead to rights a half-second earlier simply stopped, convulsed, and stopped, and didn't get up. She rolls off it into the leaves, and lies there under a moon that's finally come back out from the clouds, too wrecked to lift a finger, and breathes. And the stream, which had gone dead silent for 10 full seconds, detonates. She won. Ling Shen turned it around. Back in the command center, the old general unclenches his hands and lets out a breath he'd been holding for a minute straight. And Mei Ling, because she is who she is, drags herself up, works the blade free, and hauls 200 pounds of dead panther back toward the cave by one leg because skin and meat and bone are resources, and she does not waste resources, not even while bleeding, not even now. She makes it to the cave dragging the carcass and half her own blood, and she doesn't collapse until the job's done. She dumps the herbs on the stone, points a shaking finger, crush these and pack the wound, boil that root, and get it into him, and then the lights go out behind her eyes and she pitches straight back. Chen Kai catches her head an inch off the rock. My office worker, the man who fainted at a gutted fish a month ago, is now holding a bleeding special forces captain in his arms and roaring orders because there's no one else to do it, and that's what growing up is. What follows in that cave is the least glamorous heroism you will ever see, and the kind I respect most. Liu Jie pounds the antidote root to paste while Chen Kai pries the poison out of the plan. They peel the bandage off Han Ming's arm, dreading the worst, and instead, there's a ring of new pink flesh at the wound's edge, tender and alive, the first wave of the poison beaten back. There's hope, Liu Jie says, and starts crying, because she's a school teacher, and this is the furthest thing from a classroom there is. Then comes the hard part, getting the bitter medicine into an unconscious man whose jaw is clamped shut like a bank vault. They pry it open with a stick, sorry brother, and pour, and he coughs half of it back up, and Liu Jie nearly weeps at the waist because Mei Ling bled for every drop, and Chen Kai just grits out keep going, the coughing means he's alive, every drop that stays counts. And drop by drop, it stays. By morning, the fever breaks, and the first thing Mei Ling does when she surfaces, before she checks her own shredded back, is croak out 3 words. How is he? He's alive, sister. Your medicine worked. Then she asks for water to process the meat, because the team has to eat, and that's when Chen Kai does the thing that tells me he's finished cooking into a man. He looks at that 200-pound panther carcass, and his hands sweat, and the fear's right there in his throat, and he picks up the dagger and goes out to butcher it alone, clumsy as anything, copies Shu Hao from memory, slips a dozen times, nearly takes his own fingers off on hide tougher than any rabbit, finds a trickle of clean water seeping from a rock and nearly cheers. And after an hour of sweating and swearing, he comes back into the firelight dragging cooked leopard leg and a full pot, grinning ear to ear like he's been knighted, and announces he's making soup for everyone. Nobody ordered him to. He just picked up the weight, because that's what we do now. Me, meanwhile, I'm eating the jungle alive. Without a team to pace, my speed comes off the leash, and with the master perception running full, the whole forest turns into a live map behind my eyes. Every pit, every root, every soft patch of ground tagged before my foot lands on it. The stream footage is just green smears and viewers asking if this is even physically possible for a person. 2 hours in, my nose betrays me. A sneeze, then another, and a tuft of white fluff on my fingertip. Dandelion. The plant knowledge tags it. I pluck one fat root, and the sky pays out 1,000-fold. A national supply of the stuff seeding across the homeland. The foreign streams sneer, a weed, that's the big reward. And the dragon chat just laughs because they know it's medicine and food and it spreads like wildfire, and half of them are already talking about eating it with dipping sauce. I pocket the leaves and run. Then I stop cold because the map in my head lights up wrong, off to the left, silent, a presence. And it's not like the saber tooth, not like anything I've felt. Bigger, patient, elite, and close to the new camp. Every instinct says go look. But Mei Ling's been dark for days, and she's the priority, so I do the hard thing again. I memorize the exact spot, file the threat, and keep moving. Whatever that is, it's a problem for a day when my captain isn't missing. I mark it the way you mark a landmine you're going to come back and clear. I reach Waterfall Valley by noon the next day, and I know something's wrong before I clear the trees, because there's no smoke. Gao Lei always has lunch going. I walk into a camp that's simply empty. No Gao Lei, no Xiaojun, no patches, no struggle, no blood, gear picked over but tidy. I close my eyes and read the ground. Fresh tracks, under an hour old. 3 sets, moving together, steady, no panic. They left on their own. So I follow, unhurried, and half an hour on, I hear it, a clumsy muffled laugh, and come around a stand of rock to the single most reassuring sight of my week. Xiaojun washing wild greens in a stream. Gao Lei, the god of war himself, calmly dressing a pheasant with everyday dinner boredom on his face. And Patches the calf standing there with straw bales lashed to his back on vines, munching his own cargo, a self-propelled little granary too dumb to know he's carrying the groceries. The killer found a food patch by following a cow's snack instinct. It's perfect. I could stand in the shadows and watch it for an hour. Gao Lei feels me before he sees me. The dagger stops, the head comes up, the murder snaps back into his eyes, and then Xiaojun spots my face and just about falls in the stream. Brother Li, Patches beats them both to me, all 4 legs and no brakes, and rams my shins hard enough to drop a lesser man, then rubs his fool head against my leg, purring like an engine. Gao Lei walks over, looks me up and down for holes, finds none, and gives me one small nod, the whole warm speech he's capable of, one strong person to another. Cornfield handled? Handled. He almost smiles. I knew you could. And then he asks the question, because he counts heads the way I do. Where are Mei Ling and Chen Kai? And for the first time on a live feed watched by 1 billion people, I have to say the 2 words I hate most. I don't know. I hear my own voice drop when I say it. Xiaojun's smile falls off his face. Gao Lei goes still and serious, because if I'm worried, it's bad. They split off days ago to find our lost people, I tell them, and I haven't found a trace. And the relaxed little riverside afternoon freezes solid. There's one more surprise waiting back at the camp, and it's a good one. 3 strangers huddled in my dugout, and Gao Lei's already ghosting forward to kill them before I catch his arm. Belgians. It's Max and Wei Chun, the pair Luna once herded home, and behind them, blonde and wide-eyed and very much alive, is Greta, the Prime Minister's daughter I pulled out of a Swiss cage a lifetime ago. They found her. They actually found her, dragged her across a hostile continent, and brought her back to the one camp they knew was safe. So I give it to them. The whole thing. The dugout, the cowshed, the fired jars, all of it. It's yours now. Max stares at me like I've lost my mind, then grabs Wei Chun and bursts into tears, blubbering that they have a home. He can finally sleep in the cowshed. I don't have time to explain that a cowshed is a strange thing to weep with joy over. I've got my own people to find. We strip the camp to weapons, water, and a day's food, and I make Xiaojun leave his beloved pots and jars behind, and when his face falls, I tell him the truth. We're not moving house. We're finding people, and speed is the only thing that keeps them alive. Pottery we can make again. Compatriots we can't. Then it's a forced march, the worst kind, a full day and night, no real rest, chewing jerky on the move, following 2 faint sets of footprints that might be theirs and might be nothing. Xiaojun runs himself to rags on pure willpower, even Gao Lei sweats. I keep the perception cranked to its limit, straining for one familiar heartbeat in a rainforest big enough to swallow a country, and there's nothing, and the not knowing is a thorn I can't pull. And here's the thing I didn't know, the thing that still turns my stomach. While I was reading dirt, the smell of Chen Kai's victory soup was drifting downwind, straight to 3 men who hadn't eaten in days. The last of the Cambodians. Soka and 2 others, burn-scarred survivors of the crew we broke back at the start, the ones who ran from the cornfield and watched their brothers die. Half-starved, all hate, and now there's roast meat on the wind and a cave with a wounded woman, a downed man, and 1 kid on watch. They come for it. Revenge for their dead, food for their bellies, and a promise to make it slow. And they bypass Chen Kai's tripwire because Soka's an old hand, and they hit the cave in the dark. Chen Kai drops the first one clean, a bolt through him before he clears the entrance. His instinct's that fast now, but the second grabs the falling body and wears it as a shield, walks the crossbow bolts into a corpse, and closes the distance, and 1 swing of a shovel shatters the repeating crossbow that kept Chen Kai alive for a month. The next blow puts the kid down hard, a bad one, the back of the neck. Liu Jie gets knocked aside trying to shield him, and Mei Ling, torn open, half a step from empty, takes Soka's whole weight, pinning her to the wall, and can't break it. And the entire country is watching this, screaming my name at their screens. And I am still in the trees, too far, running blind. And the one time it mattered most, I built the map too slow. That's a thing I carry now. What saved them was a scream. Liu Jie's, torn apart by the wind, the kind of sound an ordinary ear files as a night bird, but the perception doesn't file it. It amplifies the raw human terror packed inside it and drops it straight into my spine, and the direction is exactly where the footprints point, and whatever I had left, it all comes out at once. I don't shout for Gao Lei, I just go, and I go so fast they lose me in the dark, and the wind screams in my ears like a drum. In the cave, the shovel is already coming down on Chen Kai's skull. It never lands. My crossbow leaves my hand and takes the shovel with it, clang, out of the man's grip and gone. He turns to see what hit him and finds me in the entrance, and one clean strike later, he is on the floor and he is not getting up, and the cave goes dead silent because that wasn't a fight. That was arithmetic. Which leaves Soka, and Soka is smart enough to be terrified. He hauls Mei Ling up as a shield, dagger to her throat, and starts screaming his terms. Drop the weapon, get out, he'll count to 3. And I look at him, and then I look at Mei Ling. 2 seconds, no words. And in her eyes there's no despair. Just murder, banked and waiting, and 1 strike left in the tank. That's all I need, so I play the beaten man, shoulders down, head low. Okay, I'll throw it, and I toss the crossbow out into the dark grass, and his eyes can't help it, they flick to the sound. 1/10 of a second, Mei Ling snaps her skull back into his face, his grip blows open, and I'm already moving. I was moving before the crossbow landed, and I put everything I have and everything I hate into 1 punch, and Soka doesn't get to finish his count. He doesn't get up, the dagger drops out of his hand a finger's width from her neck, and it's over. But it's not clean, and I don't get to feel like the hero, because Chen Kai isn't waking up. Gao Lei makes the entrance a minute later, drops beside him, and gives me the verdict in the flat voice he uses for bad news. A hard hit to the back of the neck, deep bruising, nerves compressed, and out here with no hospital that's a coin flip you survive on willpower alone. And the cave, which had just been saved, goes cold as a grave. The last of the firewood gutters out and the dark rushes in, and I click on a solar flashlight I stripped off a dead lighthouse man weeks ago and put a hard white circle right in the middle of all that despair. It's not time to give up yet. I get Chen Kai onto the deepest hay, my pack under his head, and I put everyone to work. Water, firewood, move, because a team with a job doesn't have room to grieve. And then I kneel down and start peeling the blood-stuck cloth off Mei Ling's back with the tip of my knife. Slow. And she takes it without a sound but the one first hiss. And that's when the cow saves us all in a different way. Patches noses in from the entrance, scared of the blood smell, and then he sees Mei Ling rigid against the wall and just goes to her, rubs his full fuzzy head against her hanging arm, and licks her hand with that rough, warm tongue, over and over, a clumsy, dumb animal deciding she needs comforting and refusing to be told otherwise. And the ice woman, the one who kills panthers with her own dagger, softens, turns her head, scratches his chin with her good hand, and says his name gentle. Patches, you've gotten so fat. And smiles. Actually smiles. And the whole grieving country watching this feed just breaks open because Goddess Mei Ling smiled in the worst hour of her life, and a cow did that, and that, right there, that's what family is. Even a calf knows who to stand by. I keep working her wound, and I don't say the thing sitting in my chest, which is that I did this, I split them up, I overestimated the enemy's floor. And Mei Ling, reading me the way she does, gets there first. This isn't your fault, she says. Everyone who walks into this wilderness answers for their own choices. She holds my eyes till I take it. This is the battlefield, her look says. The battlefield of a nation's whole future. And on that battlefield you carry your dead, and you keep your living moving, and you do not stop to hate yourself. So I don't. I bandage her up, hand her the last anti-inflammatory, and tell her the truest thing I've got. Rest. I'm here. Nothing else gets through. Chen Kai is the one I can't just bandage and set aside. A hard hit to the back of the neck, deep bruising pressing on the nerves, the kind of thing that, out here with no hospital, quietly kills a man in his sleep. But the plant knowledge in my head isn't just herbs, it's 1,000 years of field medicine, and one trick surfaces, alternate cold and heat on the injury. Cold cloth to clamp the vessels and stop the bruise spreading, then a boiling water cloth to move the blood and pull the stagnation out, back and forth, patient, my 2 fingers reading the pulse under his skin the whole time. I work it for what feels like an hour, and then his index finger curls, just barely, just once. It works. 2 words, and the cave that had been holding a funeral starts breathing again. Liu Ji cries for the 2nd time tonight, the good kind. I put everyone who's still standing to sleep, and I take the watch, because somebody rebuilt this team out of nothing, and it's my turn to sit up and guard it. By dawn, I've built a stretcher, 2 straight trunks, crossbars lashed with strips torn off the clothes of the men who tried to kill us, which is a kind of poetry I don't dwell on. We can't stay. A cave with 3 wounded and no resources is just a slower grave, so we carry them home. Gao Lei and I trade the stretcher between us. Liu Jie braces Han Ming, Mei Ling walks on her own out of pure stubbornness because she'd rather bleed than be a burden, and Patches trots at the back like the world's least useful morale officer. 4 hours in, we rest at a stream, and I do the math I don't like. At this pace, we don't reach camp before dark, and after dark, this forest belongs to things with better night vision than us, so we make torches. We're marching the back half of this blind through predator country, carrying our wounded, and when I lay it out plainly, nobody flinches. Liu Ji says she'd rather die walking home. Han Ming says he won't be the reason we stopped. Mei Ling just levers herself up on a branch and says freezing to death in the open is worse than a night march, so let's move. I look at these people I nearly got killed and I'd trade my life for any one of them without doing the arithmetic. We light the torches and we walk into the dark, and the dark for once lets us pass. We make it back a little after dark, and we nearly get shot doing it. Xu Hao's on the watchtower, and what he sees coming out of the tree line is a cluster of torches moving in formation, which out here means one thing: an organized group, an enemy. So he drops into the shadows, sights the repeating crossbow on the lead flame, and gets ready to cut us down. What saves us is the wolf. Shadow, down at the foot of the wall, catches my scent on the wind, and his war growl flips to a puppy's whine mid-breath, and before Xu Hao can work out why his early warning system is suddenly wagging, the wolf gathers those huge hind legs and clears the 3-meter spiked gate in one running leap, sails clean over the defenses Xu Hao spent all night building, and lands in front of me to bury his head in my chest, tail going like a propeller. Xu Hao nearly falls off the tower. Then he makes out the shapes behind the torches, and the relief comes out of him as a shout that wakes the whole fortress. He hauls the gate open, and then he sees the stretcher, and the joy freezes on his face. And what happens next is the part I didn't have words for until it was over. Zhang Xiu, the actress who a month ago couldn't watch a fish get cleaned, takes one look at Mei Ling swaying on her feet, sits her down, ladles out a bowl with all the meat scooped to the top, and starts feeding her by hand. And Mei Ling, who tore a panther apart with her own dagger 2 nights ago, goes stiff and awkward and pink around the ears, mumbling that she can feed herself, and Zhang Xiu just says, "Today you're a wounded soldier who gets taken care of, and this is the one thing I can do, so let me." And the ice cracks. The captain lets herself be fed, and something suspiciously bright sits in her eyes, and back home, 100 million people lose their entire minds. Goddess Mei Ling is blushing, the tough guy's crying. Somebody in the studio says the gentleness of a Dragon Kingdom girl is a weapon deadlier than a panther's claws, and nobody can argue. Xu Hao's working the fire with half an ear of corn in his own bowl that he hasn't touched, waving off Xiaojun's thanks. Wounded, and women eat first, and there's a mountain of corn in the corner. Nobody starves on his watch. This clumsy, loyal, exhausted man kept the whole fortress alive so we'd have somewhere to come back to. And I sit off to the side in the firelight and I count them. Li Wei, Mei Ling, Xu Hao, Zhang Xiu, Chen Kai, breathing steady on his stretcher, Gao Lei, Xiaojun, Han Ming, Lu Ji, a cow, a calf, and a wolf the size of a bad dream asleep by the wall. 9 people who would each walk into the dark for any of the others. A month ago, I was number 100, a broke college kid alone in the dirt with a dead phone and a last tube of paste, the punchline a whole planet laughed at. And now I've got walls, and a fire, and a family, and a country eating what I catch. I didn't find these people. I built them out of a wilderness that was supposed to file us down one at a time. There's a difference, and it sits warm in my chest while I watch them argue over soup. Later, in the women's shelter, Zhang Xiu changes Mei Ling's bandages, and it's the quietest, hardest scene of the night. She peels the cloth back and has to bite her lip to keep from crying at what a top predator did to that back, and she cleans it a careful inch at a time while Mei Ling lies rigid and silent, giving up nothing but one thin hiss. "Don't hold it in," Jiang Shu says, thick-voiced. "Yell if it hurts." And Mei Ling grits out that she's used to it, and that's the thing that finally cracks Jiang Shu, half furious and half heartbroken. What kind of thing is that to be used to? And with us here, you are never getting hurt like this alone again. She packs the wound with the herbs I gathered, wraps it clean, and Mei Ling lets her, and the only tell that any of it reaches her is the faint tremble in her shoulders. That's our warm thread, right there. Not a confession. A bandage, changed gently, by someone who used to need protecting and now does the protecting. Once the wounded are stable, I take Gao Lei and go looking for the salt pond the Belgians flagged, and Shadow loses his entire mind with joy. He's been pacing the fortress like a caged thing, and the second the gate cracks, he's a gray streak into the trees, scouting ahead, doubling back to hurry us like an impatient tour guide with fangs. 10 minutes in, he freezes, growling at a stand of trees, and it's not a threat, it's squirrels. Fat ones, stuffing tree holes with winter stores. Gao Lei and I look at each other and have the exact same uncharitable thought at the exact same time. Robbery. We work the hollows and come out with fistfuls of hazelnuts, pine nuts, acorns, a natural granary, premium grade, the squirrels having done all the quality control for us. But I stop us halfway and throw some back. Same as the monkey wine, same rule always, never strip it clean, leave the forest enough to feed us again next season. Gao Lei gets it without a word. You don't eat the future to fill today. Then my fingers close on something in a hollow that isn't a nut, rough shell, netted skin, a little tuber, and the plant knowledge answers before I've even pulled it into the light. Peanuts. A whole hollow packed with them, and squirrels don't haul peanuts far, which means there's a field close. We follow Shadow's nose 10 more minutes, and the slope opens up into an ocean of the stuff, and I rip one plant out of the ground with a dozen fat pods swinging off the roots, and the sky pays out 10,000 of it across the homeland. And peanuts aren't a snack to a starving country. They're oil, they're protein, they're fuel from the shells, charcoal in a snowstorm for a nation that's been rationing every calorie. Gao Lei actually says we're rich out loud, which for him is basically a fireworks show. And while we're standing knee-deep in a national fortune, the best news of the week is happening back at the fortress. Mei Ling's been sitting by Chen Kai wetting his cracked lips for hours when his eyelashes tremble and one cracked word comes out of him. Water. She goes so still she forgets to breathe. And then she's up and out into the courtyard with her voice shaking in a way I have never once heard from her, telling them he's awake. Corn cobs hit the dirt. Shu Hao comes off the wall like he's been electrocuted. They pour into the shelter and he drinks, and his eyes clear, and the first thing my office worker asks, the kid who used to faint at a fish, is whether the men who did this got handled. They got handled, Shu Hao tells him, grinning through red eyes. Turned to fertilizer, and you charged in like a madman. You did the Dragon Kingdom proud. And Chen Kai looks at his own hands. The hands that a month ago only knew a keyboard, and he says the thing that tells me he's done being anybody's burden. Thank you for bringing me back. A breath. I will never fall down again. And I believe him. I've watched it happen. And here's the thing I have to keep reminding myself, the fish and the iron and the peanuts are actually 4, because back home they're adding it all up, and the number is a country coming back from the dead. 17 kinds of supplies logged in 1 week. The map that used to be all yellow, brown, and gray is going green in patches you can see from a satellite. Go Shin's dead python bought 1/10 of the country's ecology back, and in the worst desert we have, the place that saw rain maybe once a decade, it's rained more in 72 hours than in the last 10 years, and there's actual green stubbling out of the dunes. The mother river's gone from the worst grade of poison to something a fish can live in, and downstream somebody spotted golden carp fry that have been extinct for 50 years. 50 million new goats on hills that were bare last month. Iron, copper, gold, coal. Enough that the country's restarting its heavy industry and the armament lines are running again, which means the lighthouse chokehold that starved us just quietly broke. An old general who spent his whole life fighting for this place stands in a command center and gets tears in his eyes at a satellite photo, and I understand that because I'm the reason for a corner of it. There's a colder story running under the warm one too, and it tells you exactly what kind of war this really is. The cowards who sold their own people back at the start are swinging picks in the western mines now, and most of them wrote out their apologies and got sent home. But a stubborn few won't repent, and Lighthouse Country has the gall to demand their release by name, calling them human rights activists, rattling the saber about fresh sanctions if we don't hand them over, which is how the whole country learns what the old general already had in a folder. Those particular prisoners had been quietly meeting the Lighthouse Embassy for months before they ever betrayed a soul. Not activists, assets, so the old general doesn't release them. He doubles their quotas, notes dryly that thanks to the national bump in physique, they're healthier than they've ever been, and mine 3 times faster than before, and informs the embassy that labor reform is an internal matter to which they are not invited. The Dragon Kingdom has no room for idlers, he says, and less than none for traitors. But the part that undoes me isn't the data, it's the meat. The old general empties the strategic reserves and puts out one order. He doesn't care how they divide it. But this week, every family in the Dragon Kingdom gets meat on the table, and anyone caught skimming so much as a slice goes to the mines for the rest of their life. And it happens. Trucks of mutton and chicken and fish roll into every town and street, and families that have eaten gray nutrient paste for years open the door to actual meat, and they cry. A little girl with pigtails peeks out from behind her mother and asks if this is the meat from the books, because she has never in her life seen it, and her mother holds her and says, yes, it's ours. It's the meat those heroes fought for in another world. An old veteran takes his portion, says nothing, and just stands up and salutes the live stream, one soldier to another. And the chat isn't even joking anymore. It's just people eating boiled mutton with a little salt and weeping, saying this isn't the taste of meat, it's the taste of dignity, the taste of not being blockaded and starved and told to be grateful for paste. And out in the wilderness, knee-deep in a peanut field, I feel it, a warm current out of the east, the appreciation of 1 billion+ people landing in my chest all at once, and I look up toward home and I don't say anything because some things you don't say out loud. This is what number 100 was for. And Guo Xin bought that reborn desert with an arm and 5 graves, and out in the same sand, he still isn't done paying. The feed catches up with him days later, 2 crippled men and a camel, out of water, the sun trying to cook them alive, 5 fresh graves already behind them. Then the camel, the ship of the desert, better at finding water than any man alive, throws its head up, catches something on the wind, and bolts, hauling a cursing tangbo across the dunes until a smear of impossible green climbs over the horizon. A real oasis, water, life. Except when Guo Xin crawls to the edge of it through the brush, there are already people at the pool, dark-skinned, laughing, roasting meat, 3 colored armbands on their arms, Indians, the same flag whose poison arrows scattered our people in the rainforest. One-armed, half-dead, staring at the only water for 100 miles with an enemy squad sitting on top of it. That's where the desert feed cuts to black, and that's a debt still hanging open when the cold rolls in. Some fights don't end, they just wait for you to get strong enough to finish them. The salt pond trip turns into a school day for Shadow, and it's the most fun I've had in a while. First he runs down a rabbit and then just toys with it, nudging its rump, slowing down to let it think it's winning, a cat move beneath his dignity, and I let it slide. Then a troop of monkeys up in the canopy start throwing pine cones at him, and he stops, lifts that big head, and lets out one low roar, not loud, but there's something in it now, something from the guardian flesh in his blood, and the entire troop just evaporates, shrieking, a couple of them falling out of the trees in blind panic. He looks extremely pleased with himself, so I call him over and pat his skull, not to praise him, to remind him this isn't the fortress, and a wolf who announces himself catches nothing. And this apex predator the size of a pony tucks his tail and droops his ears like a kid caught drawing on the walls, and Gao Lei watches a monster take a scolding like a puppy, and I can see his estimate of me tick up another notch. Then I send him back out, and the clown vanishes, and the hunter takes his place, low and silent through the trees. That hunter earns his keep at a clearing full of what the plant knowledge tags as ruddy quail, the smallest chickens in the world, and the reason my whole team eats eggs for the rest of this war, because these little things lay 300 a year, which means I need them alive, which is 10 times harder than killing them, and what follows is undignified. Those quail change direction like they're insulting physics, slipping our fingers until I strip off my coat and yell at Gao Lei to do the same, and we turn our shirts into nets, while the wolf herds the flock into a tighter and tighter knot. Gao Lei feints them left into my blind side, I throw the coat, and we come up with 6 furious egg machines trussed at the ankles on slip knots. 6. Egg freedom for the whole fortress. We bag a load of coarse salt off the flats too, dissolve it, filter it, boil it down, and you've got table salt. And Gao Lei finds a real whetstone in a stream bed and grins like it's his birthday, because to him, a sharp blade is a second life. A perfect day, right up until I crouch at the pond's edge over a patch of damp mud and go quiet. Footprints. 4, maybe 5 people, moving light and fast, 3 or 4 days old. Somebody else has been standing exactly here, eyeing exactly this. We're not the only team that's noticed how rich this ground is. I stand up, brush off my hands, and file it right next to the elite beast I clocked on the way home. Another thorn, another problem walking toward us on its own 2 feet. We haul the whole haul home at sunset, backpacks of peanuts and nuts, 6 trussed quail, a bag of salt, Gao Lei's precious rock, and Shu Hao nearly falls off the watchtower with joy. He wants to stew the quail on the spot until I explain, these are the geese that lay golden eggs and we are not killing them, at which point he pivots instantly to lecturing everyone about egg freedom like it was his idea. That night it's corn porridge, thick and gold and sweet without a grain of sugar, and I watch my people, who a season ago were gnawing bark and squeezing paste out of a tube, sit around a fire spooning up hot grain, and nobody says how big that is because nobody has to. Chen Kai walks out under his own power, pale but upright, and tells me the thing that finishes his whole arc in one line. He used to think he survived on luck, and now he knows he survived because of everyone, so from here on his life belongs to the team. Real man, I tell him, and mean it. And when I lay out the footprints at Salt Pond, the fire goes quiet, and then Shu Hao just spits and says we won't take it lying down, and I tell them the same thing I always tell them, harden the walls first, then we'll see who's out there. Xiaojun takes the night watch and won't be talked out of it, says he's a surveyor, his eyes are good, and he owes it. But when I come out before dawn and call him down, the real reason's sitting right there on his tired face. The quiet nights are when he thinks about his mom and dad back home, and he spent the whole watch hoping they got some of the meat we sent back, hoping they ate their fill for once, and I don't have a clever line for that. I just put a hand on his shoulder and tell him the truth. That's what all of this is for. Every fish, every field, every ugly fight, and I send him to sleep. Then the morning cracks it all wide open with the best sound imaginable, Jiang Shu shrieking. not fear, joy. The quail have scratched 2 little pale blue eggs into the dirt overnight, still warm, and she's got both hands over her mouth staring at them like they're made of gold, because to a country that ate gray paste for years, that's exactly what they are. Back home, the chat is sobbing into their keyboards. Bark, then meat broth, then eggs. Life just keeps getting better. And one night back in the fortress, the whole team crowds around 2 tiny eggs like they're witnessing a miracle. And honestly, they kind of are. So we build, and the building of it is the best stretch of days I've had out here. It starts with those 2 eggs. They go to the 2 who bled the most, one to Mei Ling, one to Chen Kai, and the kid tries to refuse his, says he hasn't earned it, should give it to someone who pulls his weight, and I watch Gao Lei end the argument without a word. He takes the egg, cracks it with one thumbnail, peels it clean, puts it in Chen Kai's hand, and says your job is to heal, not to keep score. And the office worker who died and came back eats the best thing he's ever tasted and shuts up. That's the whole team in one moment. Nobody's a burden. Everybody eats. Then we raise a real cowshed, and it turns into a masterclass in what these people have become. I pick ironwood for the beams. Wood denser than steel. A nightmare to cut. Worth every swing. And when the logs come out too heavy for any 2 men to carry, it's Mei Ling who solves it from a stretcher's eye view. We've got a quarter-ton animal standing right there. So we lash 3 trunks into a raft with a good lighthouse hemp rope, and Gao Lei ties off the tow line with a knot Xu Hao takes one look at and names, a Marine's double overhand, and Gao Lei just tightens it and doesn't explain because the god of war has a past he keeps folded up small, and I've stopped asking. Luna drags a quarter-ton of ironwood home like a sled, and we sink the posts and lash the crossbeams and pile the roof thick with grass, and by dark, there's a barn a cow can be proud of. And when Mei Ling insists on limping out to the tree line to help despite the shredded mess of her back, Luna ends the argument the way only a 2,000-pound animal can. She kneels in the dirt in front of the captain and waits, patient, until Mei Ling gives up and climbs onto that broad, warm back and rides home like a general on a war horse, carried by a cow who has clearly decided this woman has bled enough for 1 week. And the detail that gets me isn't the barn. It's Zhang Xu, the actress who couldn't look at a gutted fish a season ago, being the one who quietly kills our whole pottery plan because she looked at the stream bank and clocked the soil as too sandy to fire, a thing she taught herself to read without ever noticing she was learning. Even Shadow gets a house out of it. His post under the watchtower, where he can hear the whole world coming, and this pony-sized apex predator takes the assignment dead seriously. A gray sentry curled at the gate like it's the only job that ever mattered. The fortress stops being a captured slavers' camp and starts being ours, and it's the women who finish turning a fort into a home. Zhang Xu and Liu Jai haul flat stones and stack the quail a proper coop, and halfway through it, Zhang Xu straightens up filthy and sweat-streaked and laughs that not one of the millions of people who ever watched her walk a red carpet would believe she's out here laying a chicken run by hand, and she says it like it's the best thing that's happened to her in years, because it is. Liu Jie tells her, quiet, that she has never once in her life felt more at ease than she does right now, in the dirt, with these people, than she ever did in a clean, bright classroom. And then she makes Zhang Xu a promise across the fire, the kind of promise that only means anything when you make it somewhere terrible. When we live through what's coming, I am going to get you a real hot bath, water hot enough to steam, and you can soak in it as long as you want, and we'll all 3 of us do it together. Zhang Xu, who has been rationing the same half bar of looted soap like it's gold, beams like she's been handed the moon. It's a ridiculous thing to promise in a wilderness 3 days out from a killing freeze. It is also exactly the kind of ridiculous small thing that people crawl through hell to get back to. And on check-in day, I do my disappearing act, bathroom, cut the stream, let 100 million people assume the worst, and collect what the sky hands me, which this time isn't a skill but a strip of 10 white pills the system calls purification tablets and pointedly refuses to explain. System gear is never just the label. I don't need them today, but today isn't the only tense I plan in, so they go in my pocket for the worst minute of some future I can't see yet. I'll know it when it comes. Then I count our teeth and it sobers me up fast. 3 repeating crossbows, one of them pieced back together from the dead ones and throwing arrows wild past 30 meters. 27 bolts. A pistol I gave Mei Ling. A shotgun I keep. Some spears. Enough to guard a cornfield. Nowhere near enough for the day word gets out that there's a monster guarding ruin in this region, and every starving nation on the map turns its eyes here. So the next mountain is clear. Build real firepower first. Saltpeter, sulfur, charcoal, the sugar we boiled down, all of it into gunpowder at scale, and only then go hunting guardians on purpose instead of tripping over them. And in the corner of every one of these warm domestic days, Shadow lies with his chin on his paws and gets bigger, guardian blood still rewriting him, past the size of anything that should be called a wolf, a quiet gray weight watching the wall like he's waiting for something, because I haven't forgotten either of the thorns. There's an elite presence I filed out in the trees on the way home, patient and wrong, and too close. And there's 4 or 5 sets of footprints at the salt pond that don't belong to us. 2 things I can't see, both walking their own way toward this fortress full of everyone I've got. So I wall a little higher every day they don't arrive, and I keep the shotgun close, and I let my family have their eggs and their porridge and their bad jokes. It's warm, it's full, and I have read enough of these stories to know exactly what kind of quiet this is. The good kind, the full kind, the kind that only ever sits right before the sky stops playing. First, it's Han Ming being useful. He looks at our water situation and proposes oak barrels, tight-grained, self-sealing casks that'll store water and grain for a long haul. And I think good, smart, until I ask myself why my gut is screaming that we need a long haul. Then the sky answers the question for me. 2 announcements, back to back, and the fortress goes silent. 1. The Hama Nation is gone, all 100 of their players dead, and so in 24 hours the system will erase Hama from the map of the Earth, not the game, the Earth. And 600,000 of their citizens back in the real world will simply cease to be, a whole country deleted for losing. That's the price of the table we're all sitting at, made brutally, numerically clear. And 2, in 72 hours, a catastrophic weather event, type unknown, could be flood, could be killing heat, could be extreme cold, duration unknown, just, something is coming to try to wipe the board, and you have 3 days. Shu Hao, who thinks out loud, starts following the dominoes. No crops if it floods, no water if it bakes, no anything if it freezes. And I can see the panic wanting to catch in the group like a spark in dry grass, so I put a boot on it. Disasters do one of 2 things, I tell them, standing where the firelight hits. They bury you, or you stand on top of them and get taller. We've got 3 days. We're not going to be buried. And the fortress steadies. And behind us, on 100 million screens, a whole country steadies with it, because we've become the campfire the nation warms its hands at. And then Shu Hao follows the dominoes 1 step further and goes pale, because he's not wrong about where they fall. If the disaster kills enough players, more countries hit 0, more countries get erased, and each erasure could feed the next, a death spiral that ends with the wilderness a bare wasteland and 1 country left standing, or none at all. I tell him he's right, because pretending otherwise would insult him. And then I tell them the other half. Fear doesn't drain 1 drop of a flood or thaw 1 inch of a freeze, so we are not going to spend 3 days being afraid, we're going to spend them getting ready, and the fear goes out of the fortress like a tide going back. Jiang Shu doesn't step behind me the way the old Jiang Shu would have. She stands up straight and starts counting our food, because those 2 little eggs and that cowshed are hers now, and she is not handing them to a blizzard. Mei Ling checks her weapons and says we're soldiers, we fight to the last minute. Even Han Ming and Liu Ji, who watched men die 2 nights ago, clench their fists. Nobody here is alone. Out here, that turns out to be the only thing that matters. And here's what the rest of the planet is doing while my little fortress squares its shoulders. They tried Hama's livestream and got a black screen full of static. 100 players, a whole country, collapsed into a dead channel, and the horror of that went around the world like a cold front. Then they switched to us. To a fire in the dark, and a handful of exhausted people quietly sharpening stakes and stacking firewood and flatly refusing to panic. And a nation that ate gray paste for years and just tasted meat again looks at that fire and remembers exactly who they are, the people whose ancestors dammed the great floods and shot the spare suns out of the sky, who have never once believed a disaster gets the last word. For 1 long night, my camp's bonfire is the only light a billion scared people can find, and I spend that night pushing the weather sense as far as it will stretch, over the hills, up into the clouds, hunting the shape of the thing that's coming, because if I can name it before it lands, my family lives through it. I don't have the answer yet, but something underneath everything has started, very faintly, to feel wrong. So we spend the clock like our lives depend on it, because they do. I take a hunting party out for meat to store, and a lynx picks the wrong goat. 1 arrow, done, and I keep the soft pelt aside for Mei Ling, because I've noticed the way she favors an old wrist injury in the cold, and I'd rather she never mention it than have it hurt. She notices me noticing. Neither of us says anything. That's sort of our whole language. And out past the ridge I find it. An oak grove, huge old trees, and while we're cutting the first one, the axe opens a pocket of dark, sticky sap, and the plant knowledge lights it up as a natural waterproof glue, stronger than any vine, the exact thing that'll make Han Ming's barrels truly leak-proof. The tree is handing us the sealant for the casks we're cutting it into. Then it comes down, and the sky turns it into 10,000 oaks scattered across the homeland, green belts rising along the edge of the desert where nothing's grown in my lifetime. But I barely register the reward, because the moment I set the axe down, weather perception whispers the answer to the 72-hour question, and it's the one I was most afraid of. A chill. Faint, deep, wrong for the season, sliding in under everything. Not flood, not heat. Cold. It's going to be the cold. And I stand in a warm forest holding an axe and feel the future arrive early, just for me. And then, with the cold 3 days out and every hand needed, trouble walks up to my gate, and the first thing that happens is my team handles it without me. I'm a couple of kilometers out dragging the oak home when Shadow stops dead and growls toward camp, catching a scent that isn't ours. Back at the fortress, Chen Kai's on the watchtower, and the kid who fainted at a fish blows the alarm whistle and calls it down cold and clean like he's read the manual his whole life. Southeast, 300 meters, 3 of them, 2 women and a man, nation unknown. Gao Lei comes off the high ground in the cornfield like a dropped stone and sprints back with Zhang Shu and Liu Jie. Mei Ling takes the tower with the repeating crossbow and puts 3 warning bolts into the dirt a meter in front of the strangers without so much as a tremor. My whole fortress goes to battle stations in about 10 seconds, disciplined and lethal, and I'm not even there. That's the part that lands in my chest while I'm still running. I didn't just build a family. I built something that holds without me, and what it's holding against turns out to be a parasite. Bilal Khan, Pakistan's player, and he's brought the 2 Egyptian women with him, scooped them up after we set them free, and put them to work hauling his things, because some men look at freed people and just see unclaimed labor. He doesn't attack. That's the whole Khan. He waves at the watchtower like he's greeting an old friend, and when the warning bolts land, he hides behind the women and then puffs his chest and announces he's Bilal Khan of Pakistan, and Pakistan and the Dragon Kingdom are brothers, so we wouldn't dare. He's done the math, and he's proud of it. The whole planet is watching this stream, and if the mighty Li Wei turns away a starving friendly nation player 3 days before a catastrophe, China looks like a bully to the entire world. He's not asking for shelter. He's extorting my reputation and using our own decency as the crowbar. He figures he'll walk in, put his feet up, eat our food, guard nothing, and call it friendship. And that's the trap inside the trap, the one Gao Lei sees instantly. I cannot simply put this man in the ground on live television because he hasn't struck first, and a friendly nation player killed on camera for no reason is exactly the knife Lighthouse and Japan have been begging us to hand them. To end him clean, I need a reason, and the only person who can give me one is him. Gao Lei handles the weight with a beauty I have to admire. He hears Pakistan, weighs 1 shovel stroke against a geopolitical incident, and pockets the shovel stroke, then slams the fortress gate in Bilal Khan's face and makes him stand outside in the dirt like the beggar he is, which is a slap louder than any blow. Bilal rants about friendship and the watching world. Gao Lei gives him 3 words, just wait and see, and goes back to sharpening a blade. And this whole time, the argument's raging in 2 places at once. On the stream, half my country wants him dead on sight, and the other half is screaming that Pakistan is one of our only real friends on earth. Don't you dare. And in the command center back home, a hawk-eyed general slams the table. Which matters more right now, resources or the lives of our people in that camp? While a careful man in gold-rimmed glasses points out, not wrongly, that Pakistan supplies 40% of our cotton and most of the high-purity aluminum our weapons need, and killing their man could cost us all of it. And the old general listens to both, watches Gao Lei's cold face and Mei Ling's steady crossbow on the screen, and makes the only ruling that was ever going to come out of him. We handed Li Wei the authority to decide on the spot, so we trust him, and let it be known that even if this were the Lighthouse president's own son standing at that gate, he'd end up as fertilizer in that forest. We protect our own. Reply to the embassy with something polite about humanitarian spirit, and let the wilderness do what the wilderness does. So I come home to it, and I don't say a word to the parasite. Bilal Khan sees the youngest man in the group walk out of the trees and instantly makes me for the leader and thrusts out his hand with his brightest, oiliest smile. Friend, you must be their chief. And I walk straight past it like it's a branch in my way and ask Gao Lei for the situation. The hand hangs there in the air until it dies. Shu Hao nearly takes the man's head off until Bilal shakes his live stream watch at us and shrieks that the whole world is watching, that no one will ever trade with a dragon kingdom that murders its friends on camera, and that, right there, is him handing me the last piece. Because he's decided the friendly nation shield makes him untouchable, and a man who thinks he's untouchable stops watching for the thing that touches him. So I put on the warmest smile I own, the deceptive one, and I tell him there's an old saying in our country, when friends come, we welcome them with fine wine. Please wait right there while we prepare your quarters. Can't have a brother sleeping in the wild. And Bilal swells up with smug delight and starts requesting a bigger shelter for the 3 of them. Then I whisper 6 words in Shu Hao's ear, and I cut the stream, and I turn to my worried team, Mei Ling, asking if I've really just agreed to take these leeches in, and I let the cold come back into my face. When, I ask them, did I say I'd take them in? I can't kill him. On camera, I'd be the aggressor and I'd hand the world a reason to gut us. But what happens if 3 careless outsiders out in the dark past a fortress wall run into some horned beast nobody's ever seen and are torn apart before anyone can reach them? What does that have to do with us? And when we tear ourselves up trying and failing to save them, well, then Pakistan owes the Dragon Kingdom a debt. You don't just kill the man. You kill his story too, and you make his own country write you the apology. Because our wolf is the size of a small horse now, apex, and terrifying to anyone who doesn't know he falls asleep against a calf. So while Bilal lounges outside my gate demanding a bigger shelter and a hot bath, the women have gotten comfortable enough to make requests, and Zhang Shu mutters, "Dream on," through her teeth. She's barely had a hot bath herself. Shu Hao takes the wolf down to the stream and builds a monster, mud smeared over every inch of that gleaming coat. The dead goat's own curved horns lashed to his skull with vine until they look grown on. Moss and creeper wound round his neck to wreck the clean wolf line, a smear of blood at the mouth. By the time Shu Hao steps back cackling, our pony-sized puppy looks like something that clawed its way up out of hell, and Shu Hao points him at the camp and says the magic word, bite, and the thing goes off like muddy lightning. The beast smashes out of the tree line. The whole gate erupts in real screaming panic. Bilal and the women dead certain they're about to die. And the wolf, smart as ever, walks straight past the 2 women and goes for the parasite because even mud-caked and horned he knows precisely who the problem is. Bilal, to his credit, draws a knife and swears he'll fight. He does not get to fight. And I arrive as the hero. Except first I have to make a whole show of the door latch being stuck, rattling it helplessly so I can't just fling it open and let them in, before I vault the 3-meter wall like a leopard to reach my dear Pakistani brother. Then the monster and I battle, and here's the joke inside the joke. What the world is watching as a savage duel to the death is exactly the tumbling game the wolf and I play at camp every single day. He body checks me, bats me with paws he keeps carefully clawless, closes his jaws on my arm with 0 pressure, and I sell every second of it like I'm being killed. I take a hit. I get thrown bodily into the fence. I drag myself up and charge again, and despite my desperate, valiant, entirely theatrical effort, I fail. I save the 2 women. I cannot save Bilal Khan. The beast takes him off into the dark, and I kneel in the dirt, devastated, a man who just risked his own life for a friendly nation brother in front of the entire watching world. And Pakistan, watching their man die to a monster the legendary Li Wei himself couldn't beat, doesn't rage at China. Pakistan thanks me for nearly dying in the attempt. And a few days later, in the warm afterglow of all that gratitude, Pakistan quietly cuts its aluminum and cotton export prices to the Dragon Kingdom by 60%. I removed an enemy at my gate, lost not 1 soldier, kept my hands clean on every camera, saved 2 innocent people for real, and squeezed a trade discount out of the dead man's own country. Let that sink all the way in. A month ago, I was number 100, the college kid. The punchline the whole world laughed at, the joke the Dragon Kingdom sent to die so the real players could shine. I stood in the dirt with a dead system and threw away my last tube of food paste because I'd rather go out clean than beg. And now I'm a man who can make an enemy nation say thank you. I didn't level up. I became a country. Inside the walls, the second the last stream cuts out, I let my arm drop. There's nothing wrong with it but a couple of scratches from going over the fence, and I tell everybody to stop acting. And the fake devastated faces crack up on cue. Zhang Shu wipes away tears that were never real and gives me a thumbs up for the scream. Shu Hao, who spent 20 minutes lashing ram's horns onto a wolf too busy with a goat leg to care, can barely breathe. He's laughing so hard at his own monster. Mei Ling checks the arm, confirms I'm fine, and gives me a look that's half exasperation and half something warmer because I just solved 3 problems without losing a soldier or spilling 1 real drop of blood and made the dead man's own country say thank you for it. And back home, the old general sets down the communicator he used to squeeze that 60% out of Pakistan with a straight face and says the quiet part to his officers, the thing this whole performance was really about. In a war for a nation's survival, he tells them, there are no permanent friends, only permanent interests. Sympathy and decency are for our own people. For everyone else, there is only victory and leverage. It's cold, and it's true, and it's the rule the whole planet is playing by whether they'll admit it out loud or not. But the man at the gate was never the real threat, and I say so the moment the laughing dies. The real one is 72 hours out, and my weather sense has finally said its name out loud. Extreme cold. A killing freeze, length unknown. And it lands on the team like a dropped stone, because a fortress full of eggs and corn and a cow means nothing if we freeze in the dark inside it. We don't have enough charcoal, we don't have enough clothes. In a hard freeze, a body burns food twice as fast, and if the snow shuts the passes, there's no more hunting anything. Everything we've built has 3 days to turn into something that survives a winter, or it becomes a very well-organized grave. Then the sky sends its weekly message, and it's the one that finally cracks Shu Hao open. 3 things. 1. The nation has seen us. Our courage is witnessed by a whole people, it says, and a new cluster of 11 dragon survivors has formed out in the mountains, 2 of them already fighting their way toward us carrying something the message will only call special items, vital ones. 2. The disaster is confirmed, 72 hours out, and it is the cold, a deep killing freeze of unknown length, the exact thing my gut has been whispering since the Oak Grove. And 3, the one that undoes us all. Back in the real world, the families of every dragon player, our parents, our spouses, our kids, have been quietly moved into the nation's highest care, warm, fed, safe, looked after like treasure, because their sons and daughters are out here holding the line. And Shu Hao, my loud, unbreakable idiot brother, reads that and just folds, tears cutting clean tracks down his filthy face, saying it low like a prayer, "Dad, Mom, my wife, wait for me, I'm coming home." And I don't undercut it. I let my brother cry, because that's the whole thing, isn't it? That's what the fish and the iron and the blue skies and the corn were always for, not the power, them. And Shu Hao isn't the only one it breaks open. Miles off by the Oak Grove, Xiaojun reads that same line about his mother and father and just stands there letting the tears cut down through the sweat, then scrubs his face on his sleeve and picks the drag rope back up like the log's gone weightless, because now he's got a reason to haul faster. That's what that message does to all of us. It doesn't scare us, it arms us. And it lights a fire under the whole fortress. Even Han Ming, the carpenter who 2 weeks ago was rotting from a poisoned arm and calling himself a burden, comes all the way back to life. He straightens that hunched back, picks up an axe, and starts teaching Chen Kai how to split oak along the grain, master to apprentice, the wedge here, the strike there, until the great log cracks open clean, and the 2 of them grin like they've made something holy, which they have. They've made the barrels that hold the water that gets us through. The cleanup is its own quiet lesson. Gao Lei and Chen Kai drag the 3 bodies out into the cornfield and put them in the ground. 3 more sources of nutrients for next season's crop, and nobody says that part out loud, but everybody's thinking it. And Bilal Khan's backpack, the pack of a man who swaggered up to steal a fortress, turns out to hold a few strips of cheap jerky, an empty canteen, and a little mirror. That's it. That's the whole estate of the great Pakistani conqueror. Down at the stream, Shu Hao scrubs the mud and the blood off the wolf, cursing him fondly while the wolf shakes half the creek into his face and then offers his hero the leftover lynx meat as a reward, and the wolf sniffs it once, catches the sour muskiness of it, and turns his nose up like a food critic, sending back the wine. Picky, a pony-sized apex nightmare who won't eat off-brand meat. Shu Hao grumbles and hands over good lamb instead, muttering that this little emperor eats better than he does. And far off at the edge of the mountains, the 2 the message promised are coming. An older man, 40s, gray-bearded, a huge pack on his back, Huang Bo, pushing through the last of the ferns with a younger woman at his shoulder, Chen Yan, hard-eyed and tireless. He's already telling her that if the snow closes the passes, she should leave him behind and go on, and she's already refusing, because whatever's in those 2 packs matters too much, to us, and to the whole Dragon Kingdom, to lose to a mountain. I don't know yet what they're carrying, I just know it's coming, and that the sky doesn't call things vital for nothing. Then we build a thing that has to outlast a winter, and we build it all night. 4 shelters becomes 2. We tear the spare pair down and pour their timber into doubling the size of the others. 1 for the men, 1 for the women. A single fire in the heart of each instead of 4 fires eating charcoal we can't spare. And we lash the cowshed on alongside, so Luna and Patches breathe their heat into the wall instead of freezing in a lean-to. We pack every seam with moss and hay and mud until the wind can't find a way in. Han Ming and Chen Kai split oak into barrel staves by firelight, master and apprentice. Gao Lei climbs the frame lashing beams. Shu Hao hauls. Jiang Shu and Liu Jie chink the walls. And when it's finally done, deep in the night, we eat a late quiet meal, corn porridge, and 1 grudging fist of Shu Hao's roast lamb apiece. And Gao Lei takes the first watch up the tower without being asked, and the rest of us walk into a single warm shared room that a few hours ago was 2 cold ones. It holds every last one of us at once, and that's the point. That was always the point. And so we brace the way a family braces, together. 9 of us, plus a cow, a calf, and a wolf the size of a nightmare who loves us, packed in tight around a single central heat. Out there in the dark, it's already starting to bite, and there's a coalition forming that wants us dead, and ruins with guardians still waiting in the fog, and 3 of our countrymen on a grassland being called tools by men who'll answer for it. And somewhere out in the freezing wild, 2 more of ours, Huang Bo and Chen Yan, are fighting their way toward us right now, carrying something the message would only call special items, vital ones. The world is about to freeze solid and try to kill everyone I love. Let it come. 3 months ago, I couldn't have kept myself alive for a week. Now I've got walls and fire and family, and a country at my back that eats what I catch and breathes the sky I clear. The cold thinks it's here to bury us. It has no idea. We're the ones who dig in and come out taller. Ask me who number 100 is now. Go ahead. Ask me.